Welcome everyone, by the way, if you are in the stream, hello, I hope you're very, very well. We've got a couple of different screens for you today. There's this one. There's the 4 of us at the bottom as well. It's gonna look lovely. Look at that. You've got the normal ones. Hey, Will, what's up, buddy? I haven't seen you for ages.
Wow.
So many things. And then we've just got the big screen. So if you want to tell us to give me some feedback in chat while all the things are going on, and we'll just show maybe even the window with just that as well. But I thought we'd show all of us for now. And we're gonna have the audio of the show mostly. So if you're worried about us talking over it, please don't worry. They're gonna be talking.
Don't talk too much.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jem's gonna...
I have no promises, but you know,
me neither, because I talk all
That's
the
okay.
time.
We're gonna be lower.
yeah.
I was gonna say,
It's coming through.
maybe Jeb just invited us on and was like, oh yeah, I can't have these idiots talking the whole time, and then he's like just gonna mute us all secretly during the actual live stream.
They're like mute button, gung.
It's gonna be fine. This is gonna be the first time I've done this with so many people before.
I have been muted this whole time.
Yeah.
And I was trying to talk, but I didn't realize I was muted.
Oh, you muted yourself?
So I'm going to instead talk during the live stream so that I can make up for all this time I missed.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Is everyone
Also,
excited in chat?
surprised.
Right. So what do we think's going on today?
I think there might be some information about like skiffs and fishing, but
Oh, you do?
I'm not really in the loop.
No
I'm not
way.
really in the loop, so I could be completely correct.
Oh, wait a second.
Okay.
This is facetious.
No, but we seem to be doing some Guild Wars 2 Elite specs today, and I am so excited.
There is a story person. The person who is in the middle actually is one of the writers. So there is going to be, I think they're going to start with some story stuff. Yeah, so I know for a fact.
So.
Person on the left of them
Little...
also as well as, I'm pretty sure, or mapped. I can't remember.
Also, I am now, my name is Willbender. This is my reveal of my actual IRL name. This is my legal name on all documentation. So if you'd also like my social security number, please whisper.
No.
I'm English. It's new to your country. I know you're not supposed to do that. Those robocalls are fake.
I am genuinely really excited to get more information about story, because the trailers and things that we've had are so gorgeous, but have just given us this like little peek, you know, as opposed to all the details.
9, 8, 7, 6.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna go over to the show.
4. Let's go.
Ooh, trailer.
Look around us. Your children would be trapped in the past, if not for me. Their worlds are carved from the jade that I gave purpose. I promised them a future. A century of progress cannot end this way. I'll find a way to save us all.
Just a quick little refresher in case you missed it.
Happy Friday. Welcome to Guild Chat. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be giving you a look at the 3 End of Dragons elite specializations that we showed you earlier this
Her
week.
mic. She's talking on someone else's mic.
And our first End of Dragons elite specialization beta event. One quick note before we get started. I wanted to let those of you know who are playing that we have a balance patch coming next Tuesday, and after the show is over, we're going to have some preview notes for you. So as soon as we're done, head over to the forums. Right now, I know you are eager to get a better look at those elite specs, so let's get right into it and start with our dev guests. Hi, Indigo.
Hi, I'm Indigo. I'm a narrative designer and writer on End of Dragons and Guild Wars Live. I've been helping with the Golden Path. I'm a content owner from one of our open world maps that we'll talk about at a later date. And I've been helping ground the elite specializations with some really rich lore, which is why I'm here today.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And Cal, hey.
Hi. Happy to be here. Cal Cohen.
Oh my god.
Game designer, worked a lot on PvP and World vs. World. End of Dragons, I did a lot of work on elite specializations. So I'm here to show some of those off.
He's lost so much
I'm really
weight.
excited to do so.
That's why I didn't recognize it.
Thank you both. Let's get right into it and start with the Harbinger.
Harbinger.
Yeah, let's talk about the Harbinger.
All right, Indigo, why don't you give us some background on what the Harbinger is all about? Because we saw the video earlier this week, but...
Yeah, absolutely. So the Harbinger is a really, really fun class, and it's a little bit of a tonal breakaway from what we're used to with the Necromancer, which are traditional summoners in a fantasy realm. They're summoning the dead. But the Harbinger specifically is our mixture between a snake oil salesman meets an Old West gunslinger. So it's very fun, and it's a little nefarious and really unpredictable. But in Cantha, people have discovered that you can extract ancient magic from the Jade as a result of the Jade Wind. And the Harbingers, who are also very adept alchemists, have realized that they can take that energy and imbue it into their elixirs as well as their bullets for their main hand pistol. And the result is incredibly deadly and noxious, and I think players are going to have a lot of fun with it.
I hope so. Well, let's take a look and have Cal run us through how it works.
All right, let's do it. So Harbinger, right, pistol necro, elixirs, cool stuff. Important note for the balance update. Harbinger Shroud is actually something that Scourge does right now, but not anymore. We're renaming that the Sandstorm Shroud.
That makes
a lot
sense.
more thematic. And since we now have a character called the Harbinger, it probably makes sense that Harbinger Shroud belongs to the Harbinger. So let's dive in here. There's actually a lot of stuff going on with the Shroud mechanic on the Harbinger, so let's just start going over them. First off, let's see if as long as you are in combat and you have life force, you're going to see that life force is going to be drained over time to heal the Necromancer. So this is going to create kind of like an interesting dynamic in how you're going to play the game, being able to build up enough life force to enter Shroud, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you're avoiding enough damage so that it doesn't actually drain too much of that life force. I mean, you still get the upside of the heal, but a lot of time you're going to be wanting to go into that Shroud and get access to those damaging abilities. So it's kind of, right off the bat, kind of an interesting change of pace for this character. And there's a lot more to come.
That is interesting.
And
Second half of the
let's just give myself some more life force here. And first thing we're going to see when we hop into Shroud, we're starting to accumulate this, this mechanic called Blight. And we'll see a little bit more of this on the rest of the spec as well. But building up Blight, you can see on the health orb, we're gaining negative health. This is temporary health, 2%.
So it's like the opposite of barrier.
25 times, so you can lose up to 50% of your maximum health if you are capped on Blight.
Oh, but it takes down your health.
There is that some of the traits on this character are going to reward you for accumulating a lot of
the
Blight,
effects
and
are
it's going to
super
create
cool. I love it.
High risk, high reward.
The design is wild.
Dynamic for this character, which is more of this more of a glassy DPS character, even more so than Reaper. We're going to see a couple of mechanics with the Shroud that really reinforce that.
This is going to be high level, like
high DPS, a little more mobility than Necromancer is used
PvP.
to.
This is going to be like high skill.
How that works.
So Blight key mechanic, we'll see that in Elixirs as well.
Okay.
The other thing to note about Harbinger Shroud is that life force will not actually protect you. It will not absorb damage while you're in Shroud. You are just going to take full damage from abilities against your health total. So this again makes the character a little bit more squishy, but at the same time it also gives you more access to life force because you can't actually be pushed out through damage eating through all your life force. You're going to have access
so you're
to
going
Shroud
to be
as
in
long as
Harbinger
you have
Shroud
life
for a
force.
very short amount of time
So you'll be
on
accumulating
purpose.
Blight as that goes
Seems
on,
like it,
and
yeah.
you're going to be susceptible to damage. So really big moment of high risk, high reward again, and since you're able to take damage, you're also allowed to be healed. So it's a pretty big disconnect from the
to be
typical
out
Shroud
of
we see
Shroud
on
as much
core
as possible
necros
because of
and
that
Reaper.
healing factor.
Kind of similar to Scourge in that sense, where you always kind of have access to incoming healing, and at the same time don't have that massive protection from life force. Scourge makes up for it with some barrier. Harbinger just has to deal with it, get some allies to heal you, get some supports, make some support friends, and really be able to capitalize
heal
on
me.
the upside of Harbinger Shroud.
I drank
So that kind of
poison
creates
and it
a few
turned out
different
it was
ways
a
that you
bad
can interact
idea.
with Shroud here, because the longer,
Maybe
obviously, the longer
Elixirs
you
do
stay in
that.
Shroud, you're going to be accumulating blights. You're even more and more susceptible to damage. So sometimes you might want to just pop in, use all your abilities, which we will cover very shortly, but we just show off super high level. Here's some buttons to press. So you might pop in, use all your abilities, pop out, and really minimize the blight. Then you're giving up some of the
That looks like the
sustained
fifth
pressure
skill on the
from
core
the damage
Shroud.
abilities in Harbinger Shroud.
And then,
Yeah,
but
but
then
that
it's got
was
the
a CC.
lift.
Maximizing your
Yeah, and then it's got the
survivability
lift
by
as well.
accumulating less blight. Or you can have that kind of trade-off
AoE
where
CC is
going in
interesting.
with maximum health or maximum life
Mesmer's
force is
got
going
it
to
with
give you
gravity
access
well, I
to
guess.
potentially 20 seconds of
Yeah, but
Shroud.
it's elite.
This drains at 5% per second.
True.
So up to 20 seconds of Shroud where you're going to really have access to a lot of these powerful abilities. And just going to throw something out for all of the
Yeah, I didn't see the fear.
in the chat real quick. Everyone who has
you're not gonna be
spreadsheets,
afraid
we should
of
probably
this guy.
compare notes sometime. So I'm
It's too
a big fan of spreadsheets.
squishy.
But for anyone who wants to do some calculations and maybe figure out the power coefficients of all these abilities before getting your hands on it next Tuesday, the character I'm currently on has 2,023 power, as well as about 37% boon duration. So keep that in mind. Legendary pistol, sorry, getting ahead of myself. So keep that in mind. There's your weapon strength. There's your power. Figure out the power coefficient. Everyone out there.
Elixir rune set, maybe.
And so we'll be hovering over tooltips as we go in there. So let's take a look at the actual Shroud skills now. Starting off, we have Tainted Bolts. This is just auto attack. It's a little bit cooler than Bioblast. It's a little bit faster. Typical. I guess maybe a little closer to Reaper, which has the nice auto attack chain compared to the very deliberate Blast that Core Necro has access
what
to.
his gear
This
is
actually
right
fires
now.
2 different projectiles.
Berserkers.
So a little bit of extra value
it's
from
Berserkers?
Doomfire,
Always
for example,
Berserkers,
which
yeah.
Not a lot of crits for
already
Berserkers.
kind of preemptively reduced the
It's
burn
normally
duration
supposed
of
to be
Doomfire for the Harbinger specialization because of this
Doomfire
kind of
changed.
dual hit on the auto attack.
Oh, and Torment.
So a little bit of power damage, a little bit of torment in there, and
Low.
all the
Could be
lovely
mixed
procs
because of
Shroud Skill
Condi.
1 that
Maybe
That's
did he
low
say
Condi.
Celestial?
loves. Moving on to Dark Barrage. This is kind of the primary damage. I'm going to have to
Vuln
keep
and
resetting my
Torment.
Shroud over and over and
Yeah,
over,
it's
but
HP
that's
that-
fine.
Okay.
This is kind of the primary
No one's
damage payoff
mentioned
for the
how,
kid.
like, where the
High
hell
power
he is.
coefficient. A lot of
Where is
torment
he?
is more of a shotgun style.
Just like some new arena.
Blank projectile.
It's a testing zone, I think.
I think the
that we
Sun
see on
Puppy Fractal.
stuff like Split Blade. We see
It
on
reminds me a bit of
Fire.
the
A lot of
that
skills have this
Fractal arena.
value for being
The
close
final
to
one.
Yeah,
range.
yeah, the final boss.
Moving
Yeah.
back, you're not going to get full all 6 hits on these projectiles.
That's a lot of
but You
range.
still get a little bit of damage. It's
Yeah,
gonna
but
be
it's
tougher
at
to be
least
in
it's
melee range.
cone,
We're gonna
but
see the opportunity to get
that
in
is a
melee
lot
range
of
with some of the other skills. on this kit.
torment bleeding.
Moving on to both Devouring Cut and Voracious Arc. These are both movement abilities. So Reaper gets the 1 dash on skill 2. Harbinger gets
Yeah,
a little
so
bit
that's-
more. You got 2 movement skills in here. That dash is actually really long. That's great. So Devouring
it's a
Cut,
rampage
it's more that burn
dash.
speed. No organic here. We put the evade
This is gonna
on
feel very
Voracious Arc.
different from
Not wanna-
any
don't wanna
other
overload
It's
got
it so
mobility
much.
as well.
Necro
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
trying to be a little bit of
100%.
this
It has to
positioning
have that,
character.
because if it
Don't wanna put
doesn't,
too many
like the
evades
whole
in there, but
thing's
giving
just going to be
access to a little
awful.
bit more movement
It doesn't have that
allows you to
movement.
both
It'll
get
be
in
awful.
and set up your
Whole
Dark
new
Barrage,
class.
or kind of disengage and get back into range for your pistol abilities. So Devouring Cut, Damage and Torment, pretty straightforward. Voracious Arc.
You'll
This
get
one has
Thief
the
players
evade,
playing
the
this.
Vault animation that we've seen
Maybe.
before on
Looks like it
Daredevil.
could be a roamer
It's
for sure.
also going to have
That high mobility
a
is so
very,
cool.
very short days.
Which is
This
interesting.
kind of your main engage tool.
Remember, you
This
can
is gonna
stick
set you
on
up
things
for
like,
short
you know,
days, maybe
Spectral
interrupt something,
Walk
give you a
or
very short window of
whatever.
opportunity to kind of capitalize.
So
on
the jump is also a
what you're
daze,
trying to
but it's
do.
and it
Really
is
fire
an
off the
evade,
Dark
yeah,
Barrage.
like I thought.
And then finally, we're going to see the big CC Vital Draw on skill 5.
So they have
Not
they
uncommon
have 2
for
CC
Necro
on
to
the
have
Oh,
Harbinger.
look.
Yeah,
CC skill on
they are
skill
powerful
5,
skills on the
with,
Harbinger Shroud.
Executioner Sight
That's
on Reaper
awesome.
and Tainted Chapter
That
on
animation.
Necro, or Core Necro.
with the
Vital Draw, probably the
bodies
most
on the
powerful.
spikes as well.
Only second
we have,
cooldown on that?
3-second float. This also gives you a little bit of life force as well, so that kind of gives you a little bit more time in here if you're hitting maximum number of targets.
Depends how
This is
often
a AoE
Shroud comes
3-second
up.
Float, so really big
How quickly it goes, you know.
potential to set up Dark Barrage.
Yeah,
set
Valen's
up
saying in chat that
Pistol
it's
Skill, you
risky.
know,
I
hit
kind of
this,
like those
Dark
classes that are
Barrage,
really
get
risky
out,
though, that you
press
have to
Skill
just develop a
2,
lot of
big
skill
shots.
with.
We'll get to that real quick.
The mobility with
You have
this,
a lot of
with
opportunity
flesh,
to set
not
up
flesh
yourself
golem,
and
with
your
the
teammate with that ability.
worm and
So
with
there's definitely a lot of
the
power in the Harbinger
the
kit.
rubber
We're
band
trying to
thing.
really balance the
would
risk-reward
be
aspect
pretty
of
good.
no health coverage with life force.
It'd be
and
fun to see them
also
zoom around the map.
Just increasing blight mechanic and trying to make sure that the Harbinger Shroud kit is strong enough to really warrant that. And we'll see how that actually ends up playing out once you guys get your hands on this in the beta. So next, let's hop into the pistol kit. This is kind of a range.
pistol.
It's kind of like a hybrid DPS weapon. You can play it with either power or condition, or potentially both. Maybe grieving is a solid stat combination there. Carrion, Rabid, these maybe not as much Rabid, but Carrion's a solid stat combination there. But looking at Vicious Shot, pretty standard auto attack, 2 bounce.
bounces.
So line up 2 targets, you're going to get a little bit of extra value there. Damage, Torment, nothing too
Pistol
crazy, but it's an
bouncing
auto attack.
shots?
We want to make sure it's
I like the little
defense skill.
ricochet.
pretty basic.
Like the pistol on
And moving on
engineer
to Weeping
fed
Shots,
skill.
the 2 skill. It shows us a little bit
Torment on
off
everything,
of the
Jesus.
Vital Draw.
Yeah.
This is
I'm
kind
a
of
little worried about that.
This is probably the strongest, or maybe not the strongest, because the 3 skills are also pretty good. But this Weeping Shots does a lot of things. It's going to do damage, vulnerability,
It's not
torment,
going to be that great,
life force.
like
There's also
some
pierces,
places
so if you
though.
line up a good number of targets.
It's just
You can
one.
get a
If it's
pretty
just a
significant
lot
amount of
about
AoE
torment
damage.
and
This is obviously a little
bleeding
bit
and
harder to do in a
not much
competitive setting
else,
where the enemies aren't going to stack as cleanly on top of each other. For
it's
a
not
long
going to be that
projectile.
difficult to get rid
But
of.
if you get that perfect line,
I wonder how this is
you're
going to
looking at
affect
potentially a lot of life force, a lot of damage. And this is
DPS, just in
the life
general
force is only going to
PvE
be once
with,
per
if
bullet.
you
You
have,
didn't
This will be
want to
good.
this is a
go
Condi,
too much on one skill.
this is a
This
Condi
only
weapon
gonna
and
be
a scepter at the
9%
same
if you
time.
land all 6
This will be
of
good.
those shots on any target.
I wanna know what
Piercing,
the
it's not
Elixir is
give you
gonna do.
Additional value, it's only the first target struck that gives you life force. But we'll see a bit more life force generation on the rest of the kit as well. Moving on to Bioblast, skill 3. This is
Jeez.
another pretty strong
Stun.
skill. The whole kit here on the pistol is quite good. Gives you a little bit more AoE than some of the other Necromancer
It's a
weapons.
stun
like
as well.
Axe
Nice. Is it 1 second?
and Scepter, for
Okay.
example. They each have like a singular AoE skill, but Pistol has the opportunity to kind of get AoE value out of both 2 and 3, and a little bit on the bouncing projectile with skill 1. So just looking over Bioblast here, this is an AoE stun. Short duration stun, 1 second. This is more intended to be like that interrupt disruptive value as opposed to
Jesus.
the major crowd control setup. that's
Wait, was
more
it
what
AoE
Vital
stun?
Reverse
I didn't even
out of
see
the
that.
Shroud kit. But this is also going to do weakness and poison and some life force generation. So not quite enough to set up the entire combo from Weeping Shots, but if you have quickness, you should be able to get
The
all those
poison
shots in there.
application as well
And we'll have to
is
see a little bit of quickness.
that's pretty good. That's a good
Non-trivial amount of
cleave
quickness
ability
as we move into the
on
abilities
like
and some of the traits.
Or
Maybe that's something you
Condis.
can pull off more often.
So, yeah,
my brain
That's-
keeps going to
that's basic
PvP
kit,
by the
you
way,
know,
just if
9
anyone's
range.
wondering.
Pretty
Mine
standard
is
for
too,
these
kind of.
Necromancer range weapons. And
There's
let's,
those elixirs.
hop into
How's
the
Blight?
Elixir
I think it's just going to be fun for Necros to finally be able to like fly
So,
around for a while.
Elixirs, skill type we've seen before in Engineer. This is, I mean, we're going to see a lot of boons. We're going to see a lot of Blight.
There's the blight
So,
icon as well, you can
By
see.
putting Blight onto all of these elixirs, it kind of gives us the ability to push them a bit more above rate. In
Yeah, I
terms
said
of
it was going to give you
what
life force.
amount of
That's
boons
what I
they're
thought.
going to give, because they're also going to have that downside of negative overall health. So Elixir of Promise, pretty straightforward. It's
it
the heal
is.
skill, just gives you vigor and healing and life force and a little bit of Blight. And then we'll get to a few more exciting skills here. Elixir
It's
of
gonna be
Risk,
one with
10
stun
might
break.
stacks and Fury, more of that offensive option. And then combine that with Elixir of Anguish. This is going to be first source of quickness that we see here. Getting some notes on the, it's a good call, take a drink.
Oh my
Little
god.
hydration
Anyone
break.
who knows me knows that I can ramble about this game for a very, very long time.
Yes, you can.
So we're
He used
definitely
to do
gonna have a
balance
bit of
patch
that.
notes like before
Thank you.
working there. He used to go through them
Anyway,
and
Elixir of
he'd do
Anguish,
his
this is
own.
First source of quickness.
Well, this
that
is a
we're
lot of
seeing in this kit.
self-buffing, but I'm
Also
wondering
gives
if
you a
there's
little
gonna be a
bit of
trait that
swiftness
gives it
because
to your
that
allies,
quickness is the
too.
awesome thing here.
Because they don't have the throw.
Well, you know,
Right?
you run a
Yeah,
little bit
it's possible
faster.
that
That's
they
fine. That's
that there's
fine.
going to be
Everyone
a
sees quickness,
Grandmaster
and
that lets you
that's
throw
what
them
we wanna see
instead.
here.
Yeah,
So, you know,
or
you
it
can talk
just
Elixir of
your
Anguish, Elixir of
effects,
Risk,
you
that's a
share
lot.
your effects
Quickness,
with
Might,
everyone
Fury,
nearby or
big damage
something.
potential. We'll see a little bit more coming in from the elite skill once we get there as well, which is going to be very exciting. Moving on to Elixir of Bliss. This is another life
that's
force
a
source, so
big-
this is going to convert conditions
pretty
into life force.
short cooldown.
Removes 5 condis, a little bit of resolution on top in case you
It was 5
have
condis, not bad.
more condis on you then. It's going to reduce some of that damage.
25-second cooldown.
The primary
15%
value
life
here is the
force,
condi
okay.
cleanse and the life force generation, but
And with that healing, this is going to be a lot of like back and forth.
There'll be a trait to reduce that.
Yes, yeah.
One more
There'll be a trait
utility
to
all of
reduce
these-
this.
before we
as
get to that elite.
All these are
this is the
really
stun break of
strong
the kit,
elixirs,
Elixir
but
of
clearly, I mean, the balance is
Stun break
That's the
because
one.
you're losing
Nothing
health
too
at the same
crazy,
time,
but
right?
25
You're getting that
seconds.
trade
We'll
off,
see
so
the
you can't
CDR
just like
trait
spam a whole
in
bunch of
cooldown
them.
reduction trait.
Well, and
We'll
also
see the
you
trait line once
can't
we get there.
you can't
This
throw
is
them
essentially a pretty low cooldown,
because then
so
the
at
engineer
the
gets
cost
the
of a
throw,
little bit
so
of
they
life,
need
you
to
have
have
access to
because
a
it's just
pretty
giving you
reasonable
boons.
stun
So
rate
that
top
there
of
was
it.
always going to be that one.
And
That stun
finally,
break is
we are going to see
The weakest one so far, I
what is
think.
the name of the skill again? Elixir of Ambition. Super long.
Oh my
feature.
god.
This
Holy
applies to every boon in the game.
bites.
25 might.
What?
This skill is super
My
powerful, but at the same
druid!
time we're looking at
But it's
10
mine is
stacks of blight.
20%
So
health.
this is minus 20%
That's pretty
maximum health.
That's when you want your burst, though.
Things that
It's
we're
a
gonna
minute.
be
Yeah.
That's when you're going. That's when you're lining up your burst. You've CC'd him, and then you pop that, and you pop everything else, and you just wham.
Do
You're
you think
boom.
this is just because they needed something to compete with Lich?
Guardian. Oh, that's
just,
true.
and to justify
I
the
hope
trade-off
PvP
of
the
blight.
cooldown's a bit longer. than
Lich is
60
only
seconds.
good if you're in melee, though.
But, you know, that's what betas are for. We want to see.
If you don't get in
really how
melee,
some of
you're
these things
like
play
you're
out,
just
some of the
done.
mechanics that are a little bit less known. Like
I really like
Harbinger
the
Shroud
idea
is
that
a
it
very
gives you a
unique
ton of
take
stuff but
on
makes
how
you very
necromancy plays.
vulnerable. Like, I
So
think
it'll be
that's really
exciting
neat.
to see
Yeah.
how that actually plays out.
You got to manage that because it's a little tiny bit like heat in a way where you have to manage it, just making sure you're not going to end up like literally killing yourself.
So let's hop into the
Ooh,
traits
traits.
next.
Ooh.
Oh,
We're
this
going
is the
to
this is
see
the first time we've actually seen traits.
a few different potential build lines, I guess, more incentives to build toward more power damage or more condition damage, because the pistol can kind of support both, Harbinger Shroud can kind of support both. We're also going to see a little bit of a potential boon support option for the Harbinger, which is something that
Boon
Necro
support,
hasn't really had access to before. Scourge dipped its toe a little bit into that support role, more on the barrier side, and a little bit of might, a little bit of
Sorry,
cleanse
just a little bit.
Harbinger's really leaning into the boon aspect with their elixirs, and so maybe some of you can deduce what
Scourge
one of
has
the
got
traits is going
good
to be
might. You can make
based
might
off,
work.
you know, boon support.
Oh,
which
yeah, I
is
did
good
this past
boons.
week.
I wonder what's going to be there. We'll get to
25
that
might
pretty soon.
stacks up. Whole time,
Well,
5
let's
people.
start out with the minor traits. Alchemic Vigor, increased vitality. Why not?
Does
This is great.
Necro
Necro
really
loves
need
vitality,
that,
more
though?
life force,
Wait, what's this?
more health.
It's more vitality,
It's
but there's
gonna
also another trait
give
of
you
soul
more
reaping that
access
does
to
that.
Harbinger Shroud and a little bit more
That's a lot of
available.
vitality.
I think this particular class
So
needs
nothing
it.
too
This
crazy, but
class,
it's a
yeah.
minor trait. We
Because
wanna
of the
make sure it
trade-offs.
feels solid without being
Because you're losing so much
overbearing.
health.
I don't know
Yeah.
if much-
And then on the Grandmaster side, we have Corrupted Talent, gain life force when entering Harbinger Shroud. This is going to guarantee that you have a little bit more, as we saw earlier with the
Because
life
they've
force
still got
draining
22k
to heal you
HP.
while you're in combat. You're going to have a
I think
little
he's
bit,
got what?
a little bit of that
that
push
combo
pull of
gives you
trying to
that.
build up enough life
Look at
force
that.
to
If you
actually
build
get a
full
solid
bout
shroud
and soul
off.
reaping,
So
you're gonna
Corrupted
have
Talent's
a
going to give you a
lot
little
of
bit more
vitality.
up front. And what this also
But you don't
allows
also-
is
I could see really
you're going to
tanky
see
builds
that
with this.
you can
so
enter
you don't
Harbinger
have to
Shroud
use
with no
the
life force
elixirs.
because this trade is going to give you a little bit up front.
Oh yeah,
So it's going to
don't.
be a very, very short duration there. But if you do need the emergency to
If you go
access
with
a
Wells,
vital draw or
that'd be
any
funny.
ability
That's
skills,
kind of
that
very
is always going
interesting.
to be available.
You could enter Harbinger Shroud with
with
no
Corrupted
life
Talent.
force as a
So then
because of the
hopping
minor
into
trait.
the adept traits. Starting on the top, we're going to see a lot of power damage on the top
Oh.
top row of traits, a little condition damage on the bottom line, and a lot of
So you always have a way to
boon-related things
escape.
or elixir-related things in the center.
The more
line.
blight you have, the more damage
So
you do.
Wicked
basically.
Corruption and Septic Corruption, these both are the blight payoffs, looking at 1%. I believe this is 0.5% in
Ooh,
PvP and
second
World
skill
of World
also does
because this
poison.
goes up to 25.
There's a lot of poison in this.
25%.
That's good.
Very, very large
like
number
that.
to see in the adept trait slot for a damage multiplier, but this is that damage real payoff for extending your Harbinger Shroud and putting as much blight in yourself as possible. You get a really big payoff here. Septic Corruption with the slight addition of also making Shroud Skill 2 apply poison, so that's up to 6 poison stacks if you hit all 6 of those projectiles. And in the middle here we have Vials, and I pronounced it perfectly on the first time this time.
Vials.
This is the elixir cooldown reduction.
If you didn't
this one
say that
doesn't
right,
do
that's
anything
okay.
particular with boons, but this is going to be a little bit more disruptive. Get that slow and vulnerability on nearby enemies. When you
That's
use
a
an
lot of
elixir.
slow.
The radius is
Moving
quite
into the
big.
master tier of traits,
But-
we have Implacable Foe, Stability on Harbinger Shroud. So this Foot in the Grave used to do this for all Necros. Doesn't exist anymore. Harbinger seems like a solid spot to give a little bit of stability back on Shroud. Reaper has it on their skill 3, so giving
Wait, what?
Harbinger access on a trait
long
really
fall?
kind of enables that
okay.
more diving, deep melee playstyle of get into Harbinger
especially
Shroud,
since
get
you
some
can get into
stability,
Harbinger
dive
Shroud
in, use
with
my
no
abilities, and then
life
potentially
force.
get out or just
Yeah, so you could just
try to
pop in and
survive
out.
outside of that.
Yeah.
This also gives you a little bit more ferocity based off vitality for that, just a little bit of extra power damage.
You know, do you literally need
Down the bottom, we're
0?
gonna see
Like, and it's
zero.
just gonna,
cooldown
you can
reduction.
pop
So this is
into
actually
it.
something you could
What was the
take regardless
cooldown
of
on
build,
that
but
trait?
There's also the expertise
There's no cooldown. I
vitality
don't think.
conversion to
It's
kind of
just
push
there's a cooldown on
incentivize
Harbinger
condition
Shroud,
builds a
right?
little bit more, but obviously anyone who's going to be using the pistol
True.
might see this as a viable trait, get more life force generation from 2 and 3, more stuns, just more access to those
This
pistol
will be a
skills.
PvE
This
trait.
could definitely slot into any kind of build.
Yeah, condition duration.
And then here in the middle, here's
there
kind
it
of
is.
the
There
boon
it is,
support payoff of the elixirs.
There we
is
go.
Elixirs are now AoE.
Yeah.
Twisted
and
Medicine,
movement
I like the
concentration
name
on top.
too.
So this is
It
something we've
doesn't
seen
tell
before,
you
like
the
Soul Beast stance
radius.
The
share,
range, yeah.
and
I would want that to be a bit
stuff
larger.
like that.
Probably
So
like 600, 900.
looking
Wouldn't
at,
be
I mean,
240,
obviously,
you're quite
Elixir of
close.
Ambition
Did
is
you
a
say
huge payoff here.
240?
If I come over to these golems that are my good
Yeah,
friends,
that needs to be much
I
closer.
can give them every boon in the game. And
Oh,
blight
no,
is
no,
not
no,
shared,
no,
so
it
this is
can't
me
be.
taking
You only
a
gave it
little
to
bit of
4 out
blight
of 5.
and giving
can't
a
be.
giant pile of boons to all
It's a
of my
very
allies.
small radius.
If
though.
you give that
This is
elite
like,
elixir to everyone,
This is a super powerful trait. Like,
Yeah,
you
that
see
would
with
be
the
pretty good
Soul
on
Substantial
point
Races
in
duration
PvP.
reduction. This is
Yeah.
just 100%.
Did he
Everyone
say-
gets the full
I
amount.
I thought I heard him say like
This
in
is definitely
passing
something that
might
could come down in
cannot
the
be
future
shared off of
if
that.
it turns
Was
out
I?
to be too
I don't know
powerful.
if
We
I.
really want to see how this
Blight.
plays as
You
people
can
trying
Ah,
to really
I
enable
got you, I got
Necromancer
you.
to be kind of this boon support character with Harbinger.
go
That's
back as
something
well,
that
yeah.
hasn't really done a whole lot of before. And I'll take
Yeah,
a
it was
quick,
Blight, not
quick
Might.
water
That
break
makes
before
sense.
hopping into the Grandmaster traits.
Yeah, I was like, it wouldn't part of sharing those boons be that you would want to give might?
Yeah. I mean, well, here you go.
All right,
New
so
support class too.
Grandmaster traits. We're going to see kind of a common theme, common mechanical
I mean, it's
theme
only
between
one.
3 of them, but they're all going to be,
I think it'll be
again,
something
more
you
in those
take in a
power
raid, right?
condition or boon duration
You
type
could. It definitely does
boon
damage
support
and gives
type
boons.
of builds, rather. Starting with Cascading Corruption. This just gives you a little power up front, and also it's going to create this area effect around you while in Harbinger Shroud.
I like this.
That deals power damage and a little bit of cripple.
ah, that's what we saw before.
So this is really another
And it was in the
reward
traits.
for staying in
Yeah.
Shroud for a long amount of time. You're going to get this continual damage pulses. Excuse me.
It's on a good interval.
Continual damage
It's
pulses
not every second.
to just get a little bit of extra pressure, reward you
Extra,
for
yeah.
building up this blight.
Feels a
staying in
little
the
bit
Shroud
like
for a long
the
time.
4th skill on the core.
And we're going to
Shroud.
see similar
but not
mechanics
as
on the
fast.
condition damage side of things. A little bit of condition damage up front, and this is going to pulse torment and weakness
Oh, Malice.
instead
No,
of
wait, not
in
Malix.
combat. Unlucky.
We got some
Oh,
reference.
yeah.
Can't believe the shared Elixir's trait isn't a Grandmaster, it's just a Master.
Yeah, so torment
guess
and
it doesn't
weakness
really
as
matter,
opposed
but-
to a little bit
It's
of
not
power
that
Weakness is
damage and
really
cripple.
strong, though.
Hop back
I don't
in
know.
and show
As a
the
pulse?
torment and weakness.
Well, it doesn't last
Very
too
exciting.
long.
And finally, we're going to have the boon support. The Grandmaster trait is going to be a pulsing AoE quickness.
We said that this was
So
what
this
it was
is for
missing.
yourself and nearby allies.
We went through
We've
this.
seen a little bit of this
We
on
did go
Reaper,
through
where they have
this.
that pulsing-
This is why I
pulsing
asked this
quickness for
question.
themselves.
The main
This
question
one's a
was,
little
what
bit
is it missing?
less uptime
And Guardian
overall,
as
but
well.
it's
We're
going
gonna
to
see.
There you go.
This,
You're
you're
gonna
gonna
see
see the
the
dashes and stuff that we saw. So that's why I asked that
gameplay
question,
you're
because they
looking for.
always try and fill
So
that gap.
very, very
and they've
powerful
done it.
option. All of these
This is a
Grandmaster traits
firebrand,
just
okay.
really reward you
For
for being
PvE.
in Shroud for a long time and really pushing that.
That was
Without-
5 people, right?
Without a lot of the utility, though, so.
Was that 5 people?
So that's all we've got to show off for the Harbinger here.
Nice.
Obviously, there's a lot more to dive into in terms of like.
That looks cool.
game
Yeah.
I think it looks
Oh,
solid.
and all that
it's-
good
Harbinger.
stuff.
So it's power
Um,
conduit oriented
But
with
we don't
some
want to
boon
spoil
support.
everything here.
I
We'll show off all the
really
skills,
actually
show off
like
the traits.
that.
Once you guys
So
get your
it's the
hands on it on
firebrand.
Tuesday, really
Nah.
dive into all
But
that
it seems
stuff
like it
and
has
really
more
start figuring
mobility
it out.
and like a bit more of
next we're going
I
to
mean,
hop
Firebrand has
over and
mobility,
talk
but
a
this
little
one
bit
feels
about
much
Virtuoso.
more like we're gonna be dodging around, doing a lot of different things, which I
Yeah,
like.
it's a squishy firebrand with
Oh,
a lot of mobility.
what's
And
this?
I like that it's not like 300,
I thought we'd
600
done this.
radius. Firebrand was really big radius.
The Virtuoso
We didn't get to see the traits for Virtuoso.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, okay.
I hope we get to
Nice.
see a few more abilities too.
Mhm.
They wield these directly as magic projectiles. They deftly manipulate, deploy.
And what did we say was missing with Mesmer? I can't remember what we said was missing with Mesmer. I don't think we felt
I
like there was
agree, man.
much. Should be. Just an assassin build maybe again, because there was like Chronomancer and Mirage was quite slow in Condi.
They can always count
Well, they can get bursty Condi.
in their hand.
And then
I
Chronomancer
wonder
was
how
like
fast the
tanky
wiki's going to
support.
be updated. I feel like
I
people
know.
are already like on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All the screenshots of the traits will be out. But they can't do it on like Guild Wars 2 skills build it there. Actually they might be able to with the API if
So, Indigo, why don't you start us off with
It comes out.
Virtuoso's lore?
when the
Yeah,
bait comes out.
absolutely. So, as a Mesmer main, the Virtuoso is very near and dear to my heart, and I will say that as many times as I have to. I love Mesmer. I love how punishing and really unique the gameplay feels for it. And the Virtuoso is a
They're
really
going with that
fun take
glove.
on the
I
class,
don't
and I'm
like
really
the
excited to go
glove.
into
I
it a
prefer
little
the
bit more
other
today. Cantha is an ancient nation filled with culture, and what you get with that kind of age is tradition and heritage, and their combat and warfare is really no different. And the Mesmer is kind of the embodiment of those themes. At the monasteries in Xingzhai, they've learned to channel all of their telekinetic powers into their main hand dagger, their new weapon. And instead of producing clones, they now use all of that energy to create blades to aid them in battle. and the effect is very cool and really mysterious and very, very deadly. And Carl did a really great first introduction, but I know, Ruby, we were going to go into that again more.
Yeah, so you all first saw the Virtuoso back on July 27th during our End of Dragon's first look event. Carl did that walkthrough and showed some of what the Virtuoso is all about. So before Cal expands on that, we're going to give you a refresher with Carl's walkthrough.
Feel free to talk over this because we've actually seen this quite a few times.
Have we?
Hi,
I mean, I have. Has anyone not seen this?
Working on elite specialization.
I've never seen it ever.
All right.
No,
Are you kidding? Okay.
I do actually like those gloves too. I think they're good.
Wait, we've never seen this before. You had private information and you didn't.
I was like, we've definitely seen this before, right?
Yeah.
I think I would have remembered those sunglasses.
Those sunglasses are amazing.
That is Carl. That literally looks like Carl, other than the sunglasses. Actually, he did wear sunglasses once, and it did look a bit like him.
It is interesting to me though that like they didn't mention at all anything pertaining to kind of like a musical or tonal influence with like the lore with this class. Because like I mean, granted, you can interpret Virtuoso as just being somebody who's skilled in like an art form, which I suppose could also go into stuff like a martial form. But
yeah, blade songs, I guess.
Abilities, with the blade songs, I thought maybe we'd get something.
It's basically telling you that all other Mesmers are just like terrible. They make illusions of themselves because that's all they could think about. They can't think of the blade. Virtuoso, only virtuosos could think of swords and daggers to generate instead of themselves.
I would have liked for them to go a bit more into that virtuoso aesthetic of like song, because like I guess the only lore that we got was like their telekinetic abilities. So why not just call it the telekinetic?
But maybe,
there's a weird vibe with this.
There's gonna be a bard.
We did have.
Maybe there'll be a bard in the future, and if they do that, I don't know.
We did bring up the possible Mind Blade elite spec we were theorizing, and to me it
like
almost
that.
feels like that would have been, I don't know, maybe more in line, but
Maybe it's because
I get what you mean.
Early creation of this elite spec was actually a Mesmer that had virtues, and so they called it a virtuoso, but then changed the elite spec entirely, and the name didn't change.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah, that would have actually been a cool idea. To be fair,
yeah,
I actually kind of like that.
The icons, the utility icons are all kind of looking the same, and I'm a little worried about that.
The funny thing is,
and the Harbinger.
But like, do you think? What about this? Like as well, they've got the dagger abilities, right? And then they've got some of the utilities are called like sword, and I'm like, why didn't you just call it dagger rain, like rather than sword rain? I'm just like, what? What do you reckon about that? It
feels said like the rain of swords, but it's like rain of, or he said rain of blades, and the caption's like rain of swords. So there could be like some issue.
Oh, maybe he's just saying the different thing. Maybe they changed the names or something. It's not a big issue. Like, it's just wondering what I just thought.
Yeah,
this is something I thought.
There shouldn't be swords necessarily on the. It should be like just blades instead, because swords is very like core Mesmer.
Oh, true. I do like this actually though. This whole vibe of like the ranged with a dagger, I really like that idea, because like the greatsword obviously being a ranged weapon as well, which makes sense.
I loved that about greatsword with Mesmer. It felt like, again, something that was wholly unique to Guild Wars 2. Like no other game I'd seen where they'd give you a greatsword and then have you use it in some way at range, and I think this also builds on that.
They changed the greatsword that you have right now. You know how they put it out in front of them and it spins and the beam comes out? It didn't used to be like that. It used to be like a thing where they hold the sword and then the beam came out. I think it was.
That immobilize is going to be very useful for these guys.
What, the utility one?
That utility immobilize, yeah.
I wish it was just like a big sword that drops.
But this is assassin, right?
It's very similar to the other Rain of Swords utility.
True.
This reminds me very much of just like a core elementalist with scepter.
I've got a question as well. While they're still doing this, do you think that these are all being put together because they're more assassin-like, and these are the only more assassin kind of burst damage specs we're going to see? Or do you think it's just a fluke? Do you think these are just the ones that are ready?
I mean, it would make sense if they sort of grouped them with the betas, right? So that play styles would be sort of similar, and you would be able to kind of hop in and like see what they had and jump between them.
That's true. I mean, we can. Should we listen to this? We probably should, I guess.
Yeah.
It's gonna give us more details, I guess.
skill
But yes, but yes, good point.
So the one kind of important note here that I don't believe Carl mentioned in the video.
I bet
is that
Cal
we're gonna
is
see
loving this, by the way.
The blade mechanic is again very different from clones. Clones are kind of tied to a target. They kind of dissipate when you leave. Blades are not going to have that same problem. You're going to be able to carry them with you as you move between fights. So I'm just going to run all the way out here and eventually get out of combat, and we're going to see that I still maintain 5 blades. So this is kind of really going to shift the possibilities for Mesmer, who is typically used to, you get into combat and you need to build up some clones to get that
Well, even in
maximum shatter
PvP?
damage. But here's an opportunity to have those already.
Yeah.
I
in
kinda
place,
love that.
Different
And
fighters,
especially since it's a
flying
utility
around,
skill that
and then you can
stocks
just
up all
hop
your
into a
blades.
fight,
I mean, the
5
utility
blades
skill,
stock,
that's true.
and
Yeah.
fire off maximum
I always really
damage
like
shatter.
classes that keep the momentum rolling, where
So
you can
that's
like prep
pretty
and do
interesting
things even
thing.
outside of
I'm
combat
just gonna
and
cover
like
some
have them.
tooltips real quick.
Yeah.
Carl went over all these, but again, we actually have the power number here, so get out your spreadsheets and calculate these power coefficients. I won't stay too long.
Someone's
You
gonna
guys
be
can
doing
catch
that.
it in the VOD because we've already talked about these skills. I do have one more trick to show on Blade Call.
We didn't see that.
Carl
we also
talked
didn't
about
see the
how
psychic
Blade
force
Call, it's
tooltip.
kind of that boomerang projectile. It comes back when it hits a wall. So if you're right
That
next
one's
to a
good.
wall, then you have
I
that
like
much
that a lot.
quicker return time. It's a little bit more difficult to avoid or more easy to confirm all of your damage. If you don't have a wall handy, the ground's also pretty close
You
to a
can use the
wall. So you can
ground?
just detarget, throw these into the ground, and that's going to really speed up the return time of this ability.
That's
Much
really
more
cool.
realistic to confirm that off of a crowd
Well, so
controller
you mean
from
it's just
yourself or
a,
teammate.
it's just an aimed
This is going
thing?
to
Did he
make
aim?
you
Did he aim it?
just that
Yeah, I
much
guess
more likely
it's
to
an aimed
maximize your Blade Call
projectile,
damage.
and it will come in contact with the
if
floor.
you feel the need to.
So many videos to make.
I think I covered all the tooltips. If not, there you go. Real half-second durations. Get that print screen APM going, and cover some more tooltips over here. I believe we missed the tooltip for the stun break here, Psychic Force as well. This is that powerful
Fury and
knockback cooldown that
Might.
Carl showed. Might
Fury,
this is
Might, and
also the
stun
It's a little
break?
bit higher
What?
cooldown, but this is a
It's like
pretty
the
powerful
opposite.
kind
It's
of
like, no, you don't hardly ever get
potentially
like
fight
good boons of that,
shifting
other than
break a
well,
stun
NG, I
and
guess you
set
do
up
on
myself with
Elixir.
CC as well. Pretty powerful
You.
skill.
I'm okay with that because a lot of
As the
these
stun break
abilities
does the
have
trick.
a
I believe we have
decent
one
cast
more
time.
Utility
So
in
it's not going to
here
be like
to get a
instant
power
death.
coefficient on. There it is.
Yeah,
Sort
just
of
nearly
destination.
instant death.
Yeah.
Are we gonna go into
That's a touch,
action
of course.
combat mode for this class now?
I hope
So
so.
outside of that, let's hop into the
Oh,
traits.
I've done action
Traits!
combat.
We're
you-
totally done before the video. Some people speculated the traits weren't done yet. That's why we didn't show them. That's not true. We just I don't even know what the reason was why we didn't show these before. But the traits were totally already prepared.
Even if they
So
weren't
let's
ready,
just
does it
run
matter?
through the minors real quick. We're going to see deadly blades, blade skills,
What the betas
inflict
are for.
vulnerability on critical hits.
There's
So
aren't there already
similar to
vulnerability
the
traits
Harbinger,
for
we're going to see a
shatters?
few different
You can get a
possible
lot of
playstyles
vuln
for
on
the
this.
Virtuoso that are kind of outlined.
Might be
here
because
through the
you
traits.
don't take in
We're
one
gonna
of
see
those
the
lines
possibility
though.
to see power damage or condition damage,
Unless you
and
take both of
alternatively
the
a little bit
lines.
of more utility-focused traits.
Extra
Deadly Blades
vulnerability.
kicks it off as kind of this trait that can slot into any build. Blades inflict vulnerability. So this is referring to any skill that has the blade skill fact, Flying Cutter, Blade Call, Unstable Blade Storm. There's a lot of them. But any of these skills, as they fire blades, they are going to trigger
Right,
that
so the songs don't.
trigger that trait as long as you critically hit. We'll see a little bit
That's
more of that
why.
on one of the adept traits as well. And moving into Quiet Intensity in the Grandmaster slot, this is kind of that super fury that we've seen in a few places, a few different variations across different professions. We see a Roiling Mist on Revenant, Vicious Quarry on Ranger, kind of this enhanced fury.
That's a minor
so
trait.
Mesmer is getting the 30%
10%,
critical hit
that's
fury,
okay.
as well as a little bit of extra ferocity to really push that
That's an
power damage.
insane minor trait.
And we'll see a bit more. Sorry? Yeah, I'm way ahead of you. Stock back up on water.
I
So
feel like we have to fill the time slots.
Yeah.
we'll see how many of these I can get through.
Oh no.
So moving back to the adept traits.
He's
You're gonna
so
start
good.
in the
He's
middle,
such a nice
'cause
guy as well.
middle trait line is a little bit more power focused. Bottom trait line is going to be a little bit more condition focused. And then we'll see a bit more utility on the top.
Within
so let's just
the
start with the
range
power.
threshold.
Mental focus, strike damage increase against foes within the range threshold.
Of 600.
So a little bit of a difference. The dagger kit is obviously 1200 range, and this gives you a damage bonus for being within 600 range. So slight disconnect, but it's more pushing that more
riskiness.
You get more value out of the dagger skills by being closer, right?
know if I like
the blade call, you get the full shotgun effect of that triple projectile.
The thing is,
Unstable blade storm,
the dagger is a
little bit
long-range
slower of that
weapon.
moving projectile.
Yeah.
So being
So why
closer
would you
is
have
already a little bit more
I know it's
valuable
more
for this
risky and
character,
stuff, and
we're just
it
gonna
means you're
reward
going
that
to
with
pull off
mental
some more
focus
risky
being that
plays and
close
stuff. But
range
why?
damage multiplier.
Why would you bomb?
And here on the bottom, you see
Why would you
more
bomb?
condition focused, jagged mind, blade attacks increase. Blade attacks inflict bleeding on critical hits. So similar, Vuln on crit on the master tier minor, bleed on crit here in jagged
Just be a
mind. This is
PvE
any
thing.
blade skill. So this
Not
really
this, I
opens
mean
the
the
door for a
50%.
condition damage build because we
Yeah,
saw
true,
all
true,
those
true.
blade skill effects
Yeah,
across different skills.
Yeah, true.
There's going to be potentially a lot of bleeding
Yeah,
application.
mine keeps going to PvP.
And finally up top we have Blade Turn
Blade Songs
Retrain.
grant
Blade Songs grant Aegis. So really powerful Aegis on
not a oh my god.
profession
that's a
mechanic. Like this
PvP that's a
would be
PvP
very, very
trait
good
right
on
there.
core Mesmer with the
Multi
instant
world.
damage.
That's
A
not
little
even
bit
on a
less powerful
cooldown?
on Virtuoso as you do have the cast time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
It's
little
good
bit
for
harder
burst,
to
too.
react
So
maybe
that,
to something like Arcane
It's
Fire
not
or
cooldown.
maybe
There's
incoming
your,
skills. But
there's
if you
your
time it
defense
really
that
well,
was
you can still
missing.
get that
That's a
Aegis,
problem.
or it's
Yeah.
going to just enable you
There's a problem
to
right
kind of
there.
keep going, mitigate the next
oh
attack
gosh.
after.
I mean, they do have
you
cast times, and you can't
fire off on
automatically
those
go
blade
from
songs.
one to the other.
And the Aegis is also going to be a little
So
bit more
I don't
valuable
think
as
this
you
is
look at some
too
of the traits
bad.
further down the line.
But it's 5 seconds of
we'll
Aegis.
care
and
He
about
this
just
is
that.
said
also
he just said Aegis
So,
is going to be more
pretty valuable
valuable as
trait
well
there.
as you go down the
Not
line.
as powerful as you predicted.
Hey, I like it.
Hopping into the master tier, going to start with the power damage again. Phantasmal blades.
Oh,
We're going to common
like
theme
that.
among these traits is you're going to see Fury. All three of them are going to grant you access to Fury, which plays into that Grandmaster minor, giving you the kind of super Fury enhancement. So
Interesting.
Phantasmal blades, Phantasms give you Fury, and also launch a blade. This one's a little bit tricky for all you theory crafters because I believe it uses the Phantasm weapon strength for this skill fact.
Can you
so
show us?
have fun
Show
finding
us.
that one.
Show us,
I
Cal.
believe all the Phantasms actually have different weapon strengths. I was testing this a long time ago. I noticed some different weapon strengths among different Phantasms, so that's a fun one. On the bottom here for our condition
Tell us
damage
more, Cal.
players, Sharpening Sorrow, Fury on Bladesong Sorrow, that is the Cry of Frustration replacement. So a little bit of Fury off of that, a little bit expertise, condition damage, Rejoice. And then back up top we have Duelist Reversal.
Oh, what?
So pretty powerful.
Why
pretty
would
powerful
you-
option here, giving you quickness.
All right.
and
Blocking
Fury,
or
again,
dodging
Fury,
an
but
attack
quickness,
grants
big-
boons.
Big neon sign
And
around
look at
quickness,
those boons.
probably.
And you
Blocking
get
or dodging
this
attacks,
is what he's
quickly
talking
with
about.
Play to refrain.
permanent uptime of these boons.
Yeah.
They're 3
getting that
seconds on a
Aegis,
3-second
obviously anytime
cooldown.
you
I think
dodge,
the cooldown should be a
get access
little
to
5
quickness.
seconds, 4
Essentially
seconds.
a lot of quickness uptime. 'cause
Hello,
you have
leadership
a lot of
rune in
blocking, a lot of
PvP.
Aegis, a lot of dodges. You've got
Basically.
Nolan's character, that's
I'm
crazy.
already
Why do we ever
really
give Mesmer
good.
2 dodges?
It's not permanent uptime
so
because you actually have to block
Duelist
dodge, right?
Reversal,
So
you know,
Yeah, but if you can time that
playing
well
against
and you
this
get
character,
like
if you
good
know they
evades
have
and
that,
vigor, I mean vigor's on
they have
the
that trait equipped, maybe you want to front load your abilities
At
a little bit
least,
more,
like, it
push
means
through
that you
that
have to
cooldown,
get
force them to dodge multiple
into
times for every
fights
second
to
drilling
get
a
this,
single-
to get value
Yeah.
from
That's
this.
true.
You can't
Yeah.
just sit
Reset.
back and
And
like
we're
have
almost
Aegis
done.
randomly up
Yeah,
and
I
it'll
cover
do
all
no
those, so
because
we're
otherwise
moving
that
into
trait is
Grandmaster
useless.
here in a
So you
second.
have to go in. You have to go in. If you don't like so that's the kind of trade-off, I guess, in a way.
So we're going to see another common theme amongst all three Grandmaster traits is that they're all going to be pushing that blade generation or clone
It
generation.
works with
that
the
Mesmer
first
really wants to see,
trait
and
balance.
especially
So like
Virtuoso,
that
so you
first
can
trait
push
at the
the cap
top,
to 5.
that's where
Really
you're
looking
blocking
for
with
even
Aegis,
more
right?
access
It's all based
to
off of
Blade
that.
and dodge
in order to
pretty
push
well on
those
Mesmer.
kind of
with
full
boon
power
duration, you
shadows.
That's the synergy.
you
Starting
can
up
probably
top,
get a good uptime
you're
of
seeing
quickness with that.
psychic
Oh
riposte,
yeah.
block or dodge is going to stock a blade. So this, and something we're going to see here is that these are probably a little bit above rate again.
Oh, it's another block or
to
dodge.
Some of the other clone generation traits that you see on core Mesmer.
Also, you
because
could
of
use
some of, like,
sword.
deceptive evasion, where
Yeah, the
on
blocking
dodge
is
you
from
get a clone,
Aegis,
obviously
obviously.
that one doesn't need to actually
Yeah, you could use sword as
successfully
well.
dodge an attack, but every dodge gives you a clone with deceptive evasion. Psychic riposte, you get dodging an attack or blocking an attack, so quite a bit of clone generation is possible.
A lot
with
of
Second
clone
Plus. You can also get a
generation.
little extra blade.
I'm looking
throw in there,
forward to running
get some
some
trait triggers, why not? But I
of
think
those, the
big
trait
value
and
just
maybe
is
the
amount
elite, the
of
signet,
blades that you
heal
can
signet,
actually generate, especially
that
with
This is gonna be
gives you life
blade turn
every time you generate a
looking at the
clone.
block coming out from
They're gonna
blade
use
turn.
sword with this. This is gonna bring. This is gonna be.
And us
This
just
is gonna be
dodging-
dagger
dodging
sword.
well, as long as you're dodging attacks, you're gonna be able to generate a lot of blades.
Or sword. No, it's not.
And
Sorry,
you can
it's
also
it's
just run
sword.
Deceptive Evasion with this as well. Generate multiple
Sword main
blades
hand, you
per
can
dodge.
evade.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
powerful option. This is going to potentially create.
I'm
a
just
lot of
envisioning
shatter potential
just
for
absolutely
this
best
character.
using one
Blade
of the
song
like
potential, why
rapier
not?
skins,
Interchangeable.
having
Yeah,
a million
so
daggers.
clone
Like
every
the
time,
aesthetic
they
is
say
real.
shatter every time.
Oh, yeah.
Blade turns, clones, blade songs. It's all.
Man, you're
very
gonna have a lot
confusing,
of
but it's
health
all
generation
mechanically
from all the
we all
In the
know what
developer
we're talking
shed,
about
it's
here.
all very confusing. There's a lot of names for these
Then
things.
moving into the middle, we have Infinite Forge. So this one
Blade
is a
Song's the
little bit
F1
less
skills.
bursty. This is
Aren't
more
they?
of like a more sustained clone generation trait over time. Just being in combat,
Yeah, Blade Song's
you're
the
likely to be able to
shatters.
build
Yeah.
up some amount of
Psionics
Every
are
3
the
seconds.
utilities.
every 3 seconds up to a threshold. So
I wonder
there's
if
a little
all
bit
3
of
Grandmasters
play here
are
where
blade stocking.
You're not going to be able to immediately
Yeah,
burst
they
up
said
to
it's
5,
like the
not
last
burst up to
Grandmasters are about
3,
generating
or
them.
if you're doing that with other
Stack them.
sources, you're going to lose some of the value
Three.
from Infinite Forge. But if you're looking for
This is
more
minimum
that
blade
deliberate,
count 3
a little
though.
bit slower paced.
But it's
really just
below the minimum blade
maximizing
count.
your
Blade
clone
Yeah, so if you're
generation.
So you'd
below
have to
that,
have
it's
2 or
Sit
less.
here with Infinite Forge
that
building
puts
up
it up
clones,
to.
you're going to have access to.
So guys, I think you got your heal mesmer that you wanted. Well, self-healing anyway, with all
I
this
know.
blade generation.
Once you get up to that 3
Yeah,
threshold,
no, it's
burst up to 5,
definitely.
fire
The
off the
blade songs
song.
are the shatter skills.
Get a lot of value
Fallon.
for that.
Yeah. So
And
everything
finally,
utility,
leaning more into the condition damage,
shatters, weapon,
blood song
elite,
here,
heal,
increased
everything
bleed
is
damage,
offensive,
nice
and
little
everything
bonus on top.
defensive is in the
This is
traits,
also going
with
to
a little
give
bit
you
of
a blade
damage boost
whenever
for
you stack
PvE stuff.
5 bleeding on a single target. So this is all sourced
I
from
think
the
I'll make that
Mesmer.
build.
Ah, Blade
blades.
Song,
Target with
bleeding
4
you
bleed
apply
stacks to
deals.
someone
Okay,
else,
so
nothing
that's
crazy.
That
energized
would
with
be
the
a bit
first trait.
difficult though.
Probably a little bit more balanced that
Because
way.
there's not a lot of bleed on this, unless you take the
And,
It's the
bottom
trait.
traits. Then it's like the
Again,
blade
It's the trait,
deal.
yeah.
generate
You wouldn't
actually a
take it
lot of
otherwise.
clones
Also, you can get
in a
the
short amount of
weapon
time
swap
because it's
bleed
hitting
and
a bunch of
the.
targets and applying a
Yeah,
lot
you can
of
get the
bleed
weapon spot
with,
bleed.
you know,
Oh,
damage
the earth.
or some of the
Oh, it's
other
I'm curious-
sources that
Sigil.
the
You have
Mesmer has
to crit.
access to.
Yeah.
You could
I'm curious
potentially
about how the
be hitting
Aegis
like
stuff
5
might
targets, applying 5
even
bleeding,
work
and getting a
in
pile of
like
blades to
PvE
them
raids or
Saturday.
something. Like,
That's very good.
So
yeah.
again, all these Grandmaster traits are
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna be
pretty
blocking all-
powerful,
you're
I
gonna
feel
take damage all
the
the time.
The amount of clones
Right.
that you
Yeah,
can
all the
build
time.
compared to
true.
some of the more standard Mesmer gameplay, we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on how strong all of them
Imagine like
are as people
Gorsavor.
play with them a lot more. But we
I know.
push
I don't know if I'm not
Virtuoso
sure. I'd
a
have to
lot
see like
more
if it'd be quite enough to do
ability
something like tanking,
really
because I mean
push that
obviously
push those
Chronomancer
shatters with the 5 cap and the
has sort of been
Yeah.
in tank jail for a long time, but
differences of the
it is
characters
interesting.
already.
I mean, you
This-
can. Oh, wait, you
Pointing
can
your eyes
tank on
toward the shadow
anything if you
mechanics, so
really wanted
you have a
to.
lot of access to blade
But that could be fun.
to this character.
I'm looking forward to this Bloodsong
So that's all we got to cover for the Virtuoso
in
here.
raids, probably. Just how I want to see how quickly you can stack those blades with
specialization to
that.
talk about, which is the Willbender.
Willbender, yeah.
Willbender.
Alright, trailer.
Guardian.
William Bender.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. This
is-
might become my new one.
Willbenders protect the Canthan throne with
Watch this
unflinching
trailer with
loyalty.
the
They have no
lights.
time to play at war. If a threat emerges, they'll strike it down before it has time to react.
She's protecting
They
the
take the fight to their targets, using
Why is she
rapid
attacking
movement
the
skills to
Imperial?
navigate the battlefield. A Willbender's blade work is unmatched, and wielding a sword in their offhand gives them extra opportunities for ruthless cuts.
It's so good.
The Street Fighter vibes with this. I said this on Twitter yesterday. I was like, this is Ryu
Yeah.
and Ken right now. I was hoping it was more Chun-Li, but she's upside down. She
Or
doesn't.
Barb.
So does offhand sword affect main hand sword is the
Yeah,
question.
this is
We
what
shall
I was
see.
talking
And
about in my
possibly
video
no
as well.
symbol. First Elite Spec.
There was like that swipe with the 2 swords, and I was like,
All right, so those of you who guessed Guardian Elite Specialization during our teaser last week, congratulations. And one note, something that I'm really enjoying is how closely to Cantha the lore is all tied. So why don't you run us through
what?
the
And
last
is this a
episode?
running joke, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Willbender is actually really exciting on that note specifically because it gave us an opportunity to not just dive into the lore, but to dive into the lore of ancient Cantha, even predating what we knew from factions. So Willbenders are traditionally traditionally protectors of the Emperor of Cantha, or the throne of Cantha, more specifically Empresses too. And more specifically to that, they were protectors of the Way No Su, or to be closer to the stars, which were certain emperors and empresses that had achieved ascension through celestial trials. So they're mildly important and probably shouldn't be killed. So Willbenders are really, really potent protectors, and which goes along with the Guardian class as a whole. But like the Harbinger, they're kind of a tonal breakaway from what we're used to. They're definitely still protectors, but in their gameplay, they're a little bit more brutal. And with their new offhand sword, their whole thing, they're kind of like more of like an assassin, like a right hand to the throne, or the swords, or the throne's sword hand, more specifically.
Yeah,
and their whole MO is that they get in there quickly. They're the first one to strike. And I'm really excited for everybody to dig into that a little bit more with Cal, because it's one of the more unique takes on a class that we're very familiar with.
Yeah, it feels really different from the other Guardian, you know, elite specs.
Let's do that
We can go that. We can go.
Yeah, so Willbender, super zoomy,
skills not
fast
changed.
Guardian. We saw a little bit on the featurette.
Looks like the
a lot of
virtues are
mobility.
all physical
We'll be
skills.
Really diving into that, but really
Physical skills
pushing
as
that
their
more
utilities too.
assassin-y, roamer, kind of skirmisher playstyle. I mean, we've seen the similar silhouette with like Sword Revenant heavy armor, with that similar high mobility
Someone definitely told me it
playstyle.
said
Warriors maybe a little bit
samurai
slower
kind
with
of
their
underneath
offhand
in my comments.
but Guardian is really going to be pushing
Interesting.
again toward that more melee brawler, kind of glassier again, high mobility, a little
Like
bit
a monk.
disconnected from the usual
Yeah, I feel like more
deliberate,
like a monk maybe
slow
than
movements that we
even
see
Sam.
with the Guardian
Yeah,
profession.
yeah.
And
It's true.
for all of the spreadsheeters out there, this character has 2,189 power, so all three of them are different. That's just how the default loadouts turned out.
This
I'm
is
gonna go
Berserker
complain
because
about
it's what
someone- complain about that to somebody
11,645
else.
health.
Explain to this about
But keep that in
someone.
mind when we're running through skill facts.
You know what I mean?
But first, before we get into the sword, let's talk about the profession mechanic a little bit. So we're going to see something pretty different from the kind of typical virtues that Guardian has. We're very used to these passives
That's the movement
that are
skill.
just always there, and then you're going to activate the virtue, and it's going to have like a singular upfront effect. But the Willbender virtues are quite different. There's actually no passive attached to these. There's only going to be kind of this active stance. I don't really want to call it a stance because we have a stance skill type, and these are not stance skill types. But it's more
Then
of
what
that
do we do with the
style
virtue
of play where you
Grandmaster?
kind of enter
What about the
justice
traits?
stance, and
Maybe
then
we'll just
your
apply more
outgoing
burning.
strikes are going to apply burning.
I
So
don't know,
if I'm
man.
just
Yeah, we
playing
can
this
still
guy,
use. It's still
hitting
technically
these
a
guys,
virtue,
see, no
right?
burning procs,
No,
but once I
there's-
hop into
there's
justice,
This-
because
he said there's no
burning
passive.
traits
we're
that
going to
affect
then
the
start
passive.
accumulating the similar
Burning Raptor.
He'll probably
the
explain.
more
I reckon it'll still
understood
be a thing.
justice gameplay. And we saw a little bit there on the ground. This is going to be something that we see across all of the different different virtues here. They all kind of have their own flavor of what we're
Nice.
calling Willbender flames. So here we have the kind
cool
of
looking
triple claw,
animation for
we got
sure.
the
Burning.
triple claw on the ground. This is actually target controlled, so it can only hit one target even if you're standing on all three. The intent of the Willbender flames is less about damage and more about giving you additional strikes, because we're going to see similar mechanical behavior on both resolve and courage.
This isn't even about
That's a
mobility
little bit
then.
different from what we're used to,
Damn.
but we're going to
Hoping
see
it was.
that these Willbender flames really serve to
I don't know.
provide
Balance
a little
is
bit
the
more value to
default
that style of
skins, but I
gameplay. So we
think
saw the
he's
claw
made
with
himself to look a
justice,
lot like a Guild Wars
resolve,
1
we're going to have
monk.
a little straight line, and courage, we'll
Yeah,
come back to these skills
maybe.
again.
He looks
We
like
have the
Menlo
nice
without the
circular
bald
AoE
head.
radius. So a
Oh,
few different
that's
flavors
cool.
of Willbender flames, just to really push a little bit of those extra strikes. And as we were talking about, this character is super fast, high mobility. All of
Oh, it
these,
is high mode. Okay.
all the virtues
Yeah.
are mobility skills. So we see a pretty
Oh,
decent
they all
range
are.
on justice, resolve in there.
Whoa,
decent
that's
dash. This
thief.
one's also an evade.
That's very cool.
That looks very fiefy.
Yeah, we can just talk about courage real quick. Courage is actually shadow step. It's pretty long range. Initial hit.
It's so pretty.
Again, pretty low
But
damage
it's
on
a
these
shadow
strikes,
step,
so
but
more
you
just
don't need a
intended to
target.
Push the
That's cool.
virtue triggers. So the actual trigger that we're going to see for resolve is that instead
See,
of
it's
having
still a
that initial
virtue.
upfront heal that we see on like core resolve
still a
and
virtue.
winged resolve,
Generate
is that
Which
it's
is
going
more
to
generative
have the
effects.
similar justice mechanic of every 5 strikes is going to heal you a little bit.
Oh. Okay, so the after effect, the passive is gone, but the after effect of using this is going to
So
be
just,
what the trait
lose some
affects,
health
the
here real
permeating
quick
wrath.
and be in combat, so that matters. So see that while we're in Justice, we're getting this, or in Resolve, sorry, we're seeing 652.
The rings look
pretty
different.
reasonable proc. You can actually get a lot of healing. Obviously, I'm
combo fields
cleaving
for
like
the
5
symbol.
golems at a time. So maybe more in that Wovo environment, more in that open world, blobs of enemies. You're going to have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of potential healing here. Or if all your enemies stack up in PvP, maybe you can also do that. Probably a little bit harder to get as many multi-hits, but still a lot of healing potential from the Resolve Virtue. Then moving into Courage, we have Crashing Courage. And the proc here is actually, again,
stability.
pretty powerful effect.
that without
The
the
5-hit
traits?
trigger here is going to be both Aegis and Stability. So this is really enabling that kind of dive potential
I
for the
see.
character. You're just gonna, if you dive in with Courage, you're gonna be able
Danger
to
protection.
hide in the
There you
attacking
go.
thing,
So they're
hiding
getting that
mistake.
hot. They
I
did that
recommend
with the other
attacking things
classes.
that
If you
react to
dive
the
in, you
virtues.
get some kind of
That's gonna give
defensive
you
ability,
the
which is
extra
going to help
up
you to
12
stay
steps
in and
is
do
really, That's
damage.
insane, but again,
Like
it's
stability.
hitting multiple
They
targets
do
here.
use
That's
definitely a roamer.
per five
The
strikes
fifth
you're gonna
ability
get
on the
Aegis, you're gonna
sword was
get,
lighting up
stability. So
during
really
that
powerful
sequence.
cooldown.
I've never seen that
Kind of
before.
give you a little
I
bit
didn't
more
see.
staying power in the fight.
Like a combo thing?
Probably.
But
It'll
one
maybe
thing
like
to keep in mind
indicate
is that these
better combo.
stances, I'll just keep calling them stances, why not? These virtue stances all overwrite each other. So if you do if you fire off Justice and fire into Resolve immediately, you see that I now only have Resolve active. So this is going to create a little bit of decision
the
making in
passes-
terms of if you want to
okay, they
maximize your
trigger
ability or
after.
you want to
I
maximize
see, I
your
see.
virtue triggers.
It replaces it.
If you're looking to maximize virtue triggers, maybe your enemy is able to disengage after you dive in with Justice. They shadow step away, and you actually need to chase them, so you can't really get full value out of your Justice, and you might need to continually chase after them, and then you're losing access to either Justice or Courage or Resolve. But
Interesting.
on the upside, you have a lot of chase potential. You just go pretty
It's
far.
so
Throw in
zoomy.
some movement from skill 5 on
on
the
the-
sword. We'll talk about that real soon.
to be so
So a lot of movement. There's even more movement on the utility skills.
Everyone's going to be dead next week. All day.
So that's pretty much how the summary of the virtues. Pretty different from standard Guardian virtues, but I think it creates a really interesting kind of play style of really pushing that melee.
Yes. Thieves
Pretty
are known for
different.
being a guardian.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
enjoyed
different.
everyone.
Or guardians
Yeah,
are
we're in a
known for being
PvP season.
All right, moving into the
Sword.
sword kit. So we have offhand
You might
sword.
not be able to play him in
2
rank,
skills
though.
here. I'm going to start out with Advancing Strike. This is the one I kind of showed off. Movement skill. So it's just a dash if you don't have anything targeted. If you have something targeted,
Wait,
if you end up
Another
within a
dash. Fun.
certain amount of range at the end of
For
this
cooldown.
dash, you are
Oh,
then
20.
going to do a final shadow step and attack. So a little bit of that rush, warrior greatsword rush, but a little bit more controlled with the shadow step. And then a nice slow and a very short immobilize 1 second. It's not intended to be like this major lockdown. We're going to see more of that coming out from the utility skills. We're going to see more of that on the elite skill, or there's more expectation that this character is going to be set up by their allies and as the assassin dive in and really secure the kill. So Advancing Strike, not going to be enough to fully confirm Executioner's Calling here, but if you can get a larger lockdown from either your allies or some of the utility side skills, you can land that. So taking a quick look at Executioner's Calling here, this is the main damage payoff of the sword offhand. Pretty big damage multiplier. We got some vulnerability in there. Pretty straightforward skill. This is the multi-hit. You do the initial stab animation into the double swing.
Good.
So you swing your sword and
good
then you swing your
damage.
swords again, and you get a solid amount of damage coming out from this skill. Yeah, so I mean that's all there is to the sword kit. 2 skills, but it's gonna really lean into that mobility, damage, assassin-y type playstyle. And
I
we're
have
gonna
a
see a little
feeling
bit
he's
more
laughing
from the
because
utility
there's
side of
more
things,
water bottles.
where you can kind of push a little
Probably.
bit more toward crowd control if you really want to, or push more on the mobility side if you want to, or just kind of push for damage. If you
that
want.
random like number
So
9 is
moving on to
just
skill
like
skill.
boot to the
Reversal
face.
Fortune. Guild
That's
Wars
a
1
lot of
players
tags.
probably
Hold
recognize the
on.
name.
This
Kind
is
of a
complicated. Hold on.
homage to that skill. We have a fairly similar mechanic, if not, it's not exactly
Even
the
if it would
same,
have
and
been
again, very different.
lethal.
We're not gonna see
Yeah.
exact one-to-one copies there.
AD.
Yeah.
But we're going to see with the
Kinda
Reversal of
not.
Fortune, they
Yeah,
kind of
a
have a
little bit.
similar full counter type mechanic where you are doing this initial block channel. And if you fail to block anything, you'll get a little bit of a heal here. Let me stay in combat so I don't randomly heal myself. But you're going to see, if you don't block anything, you get a very small heal, not very rewarding. that's totally by design, because the upside of this skill is if you actually block an attack, let's just have my golem friend use some
All attacks
fire
that gain
grab
access
or
to
something.
repose.
I don't know why they have to write even if it would have been
A bigger
lethal,
payoff
because
there,
you're blocking the
4K here,
attack.
so about double.
So
But you're
it's
also
not going to be
seeing
lethal.
actually taking 0 damage from that ability.
Oh,
so
but you could
fully
be unblocked.
absorbing
There could be
the
like
damage from the
someone
incoming
attacking you
attack
that
and
unblocked.
on top of that,
So you didn't
I
take
think
any.
really high upside for
You
this
don't take
skill,
any damage
because
at all.
obviously you're going to block something like Maul or
You don't
Kill
take any
Shot or these
damage.
heavy
It's like a
damaging
full-on
attacks.
block, and you heal
Yeah.
You're
by what it
effectively
takes.
gaining tens of thousands
If you
of health.
timed it like just right, you know, you
combination
could
with the
escape
4,000
like a
direct
killing blow
hits of the skill.
essentially.
So
Yeah.
pretty high upside, and it's
I just
definitely
wonder
gonna
what
be kind
Pierce
of a
it-
key
if
gameplay moment playing against this
Pierce
character, because you're going to want to make sure you
goes
don't
through that.
trigger
15
that
seconds
reversal
too,
fortune
and this will be
really
like a
limit
really
their
good.
options
There's going to be some decent
and reduce their
blocking
healing.
because F3 still grants Aegis.
I don't
Yeah,
get-
there's charges in there. That's charged.
So I don't know why they mention lethal damage so much in this. It doesn't matter if it's lethal
All right,
or
let's
not, right?
move into some of the utility skills.
I think
We
he
have the physical
converts
skill
the
type,
the,
which is
leaf, the
something we've
damage
seen in the past
into
before.
the heal,
Forward, we see
maybe
Daredevil.
percentage, or is it
We're
just
going to see a lot of the
heal?
same themes, a lot of crowd control, mobility, damage. A lot of the same
Interesting.
themes on the Willbender, but kind of doing their own flavor
Another
of
shadow step.
physical skills.
Oh, Valentine's.
There's
Start off
so
with
many.
Flash combo,
I mean,
pretty
oh
powerful skill
gosh,
here. This is going to be using that kind of fist.
Yeah, that's true, Valen, yeah.
On the Daredevil. Where
Wait, what was
hitting
it?
all of
What are
these
their
weapons
abilities?
It's
Sorry.
another shadow
unlocks a
step.
secondary skill.
Is it a meditation?
Oh, when you
In this
teleport
case,
back.
it is a shadow return.
God.
So
Wait,
this
what?
is
This
a
is
super
literally
powerful
more
cooldown
ability
because
than
if you
Thief.
Jump in, land all these abilities. You then have a
Maybe
6
can't
second
stealth.
window, then fire off the rest of your kit. Just press all your buttons. Why not?
That lasts for
and then you
6
can have that
seconds.
opportunity to then disengage and get out.
Is
all
there
in one
stream
kill,
lagging?
Very strong.
I don't think so.
And at the same time, then we have the counterplay side of it, where if the Guardian hops in with flash combo, as long as you mitigate one of those, a single attack, then they're not going to be able to hop back out. So we see this golem has Aegis. I'm a terrible player, so I used my skill on a target with Aegis. Don't get my flip over repose, and now I'm just going to get.
Did you say I'm a terrible player?
That'd be crazy.
Moving on, we move into Whirling Lights. So this is basically
Calling out my
this is the damage
sticker.
skill. This is
It's
a pretty
another
solid damage
lunge.
skill. A little bit of weakness in there, but primarily we're looking at power damage. We're looking at burning. This is a super cool whirlwind kick animation.
Yeah, that's cool though. I don't care. That's the ability I'm talking about.
Needs mobility.
That is literally right your Ken. Like if they, that is literally that ability right there.
Both of those things while also
Shoryu can-
damage.
Yep.
And as a side effect,
It's
of this,
very fighting game
bonus effect of this
influenced.
skill is it's
Very
also a little
fighting
bit of
game
a
This
influenced.
doesn't need to be a
But you're
movement
primarily going to
skill.
want to use it when you're already in
I
the whirlwind,
absolutely
because
love it.
You're already starting these whirlwind kicks at the start of the ability.
Wait, what?
So using it to
It's a movement skill too,
engage
yeah.
your
Oh,
maximum
nice.
damage potential of this skill.
Wait, could I go over the
And if
tooltip
any of
again?
these
Did it
go
say it's an
away
evade
from you,
also? No, right?
You would see that.
I don't
there's
think
a
it's
little bit
if
of
it was
an
movement
evade.
to
Oh my
this
gosh.
ability. As you like, when I use it far away, I move toward my
I
target.
love the
as long as I'm
animation.
not already
We've not
shooting.
seen an
So a little
animation
bit of
like
chase
that
down,
for
but
much
primarily
before,
a
other than
very
Ellie's spinning.
AoE big damage ability.
Heel crack.
I guess like
Next up, we have Heel Crack. This one's pretty straightforward. Damage and stun. 0.01
15-second
infused
cooldown.
in every world. Look forward to that.
Range of 240.
It's like Skull
This one,
Crack,
I mean,
but
this
better.
is kind of your combo
CC for
out of
break bars.
advancing strike, because you get the 1 second immobilize here. That can guarantee Heel Crack. And then that can
I
set
mean,
up
it's not that
execution
much
before
different than,
it's
say,
just
like,
calling down.
kick
So
for
potentially,
Warrior.
if you can find room for this skill on your bar, that
Are
gives
they
you
all
more
physical
personal
abilities, did he
opportunity to
say?
set up yourself
Yeah.
instead of relying on allies, and really unload all of your damage into a single target.
What's the rune for physical abilities?
Final thing, we might as well give this character a stun break. I mean, you know, glassy assassin characters probably want to break.
You know what
stuns
this means,
once in a
though?
while.
This
So
means
I'll
that they're
just
going
cover
to come out
this
with a
super long skill
physical,
fact, and I'll take it.
a rune set that's for physical stuff.
I thought
so
there was,
Warrior's
though.
going to get in. There isn't, I don't think. So there's going to be a new rune set for Warriors too.
There's more movement on this.
Break stun and dodge backward.
All
Blinding.
right, so Roiling
Yeah,
Light.
and
Yeah,
it's
but this is
an
the
evade.
thing. Like Guardian doesn't have much
similar, like,
mobility.
backwards roll mechanic
So
as
like
Roiling
That's
having
not
that.
entirely true. They have a
is-
lot of teleports.
This
I need
same
to.
thing. You do that flip
I
over
need to.
skill.
Not any movement other than that. Other
I was
than
going
like.
to touch on, there's also the blind, the initial blind. So get
Some
stun,
weapon
break the
stuff,
stun,
not
roll
much.
away, apply blind,
You're
gives you
not
a little
gonna
bit
be
of
able
coverage
to
to kind of
catch this
re-engage
character.
on top. And we're just
Yeah,
gonna
I
give you
kinda
the
love
re-engage
that,
on the same
though.
skill, quick retribution.
Especially because they
These are
didn't
3
get
second
like
days. Single
a
target,
whole
though,
bunch
you
of
get a
new
lead finisher
stuff
in
in
there.
regard, like, you know,
Maybe
we've
there's a
got some
combo
of the
throw on the ground,
classic
get a little
sword
bit of
skills.
extra
Like,
value.
I really
But
like
3
that
second days,
the actual
this is really
play
gonna
style
allow you
itself
to
is so
essentially
drastically
shift the
different.
momentum of the fight
And they
as
don't
you're
seem to be
breaking a
doing
stun,
like
evading attack,
a
applying
whole
blind,
lot of
applying a
damage.
daze,
With 200,
and
it was
comeback
2000.
Good
The
strike.
thing is,
Gives you another
is
window
that
of
if you don't
opportunity to
have
push
these
forward
evades
with
and
all
you go
the damage.
berserkers, look how much HP you've got.
And
Now,
finally,
You are
we
not
have
getting a
Heaven's
lot of
Palm.
boons in
This
this.
is another
Wait, what's this?
Targeted are
powerful
knocked
crowd
back
control skill.
instead.
A
Oh.
lot stronger than the 2-second stun we saw on
Use it!
the, what was called heel crack. Yeah,
So,
heel kick, heel crack.
about catching them though,
Heaven's Palm.
only
4
2 of
second
these
knockdown.
movement
This is a single
skills
target, but
aren't
it's also going to do kind of an
teleport to
area
target,
attack around
right?
you.
I like
So this will knock down your target and push everyone
It'll
else away.
isolate
so
a
this is
target.
kind of trying to isolate
Interesting.
the
Oh, this is a
primary
PvP
target
ability.
enable
This is a
that
hardcore
assassination
PvP. This
play
is
where
like,
I isolate the
this is a
primary
PvP
target,
ability right here.
priority target. and
Not
then
even,
overload
maybe
it.
even a little
4 second
tiny bit
knockdown,
world v world,
super
but
loud. I
like,
think only
how many
Backbreakers-
targets?
Someone's
5.
gonna fact check me and destroy this, but I think Backbreaker is
45 second cooldown in PvE.
duration outside of any
These are really
extensions.
short
That's probably
cooldowns.
Yeah, but it literally does one
4-second
thing.
duration,
That
very
has
long.
to be
It's a
short.
lead
It doesn't
skill.
do
We were kinda
much. I
talking
mean,
earlier
it just
how
it does something which is very
these characters aren't
influential
necessarily
in a
supposed to set
in a
themselves up
specific
as
game
much.
mode,
The
and
elite
it has
skills
it's good
are
break bar
typically a
damage,
spot
I
that we
guess
tend
as
to
well.
break or
I need
bend
break
rules
bar.
a
Why are you
little
gonna
bit
use that in
more, so this
PvE?
really
Like,
kind of
other than
pushes
that, there's no reason to
That
use it other than
ability is not
fun.
gonna be easy way from you if you're
Yeah.
crowded out.
That's gonna be one of those abilities that
Take heel
people
crack, take
use
Heaven's
after
Palm,
everybody
a
else
little
has
bit more
grouped
that
the enemies to
disruptive
cleave,
power,
and then everybody's like,
last time
why?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Specifically for
So true.
that dungeon where you have to
I'm
separate
gonna
the
hop
2
into
people.
the traits.
There we go. There we go.
Well, here you go. Now's the traits. This is the thing.
Okay.
Cal, how do you not need to go to the bathroom? Like, come on, man. Is there no? He's got some serious
All right,
bladder
so
control.
starting out with the minor traits.
Gain increased move. Okay.
Right to sprint,
This is too much.
mobility,
Go
super
even
fast,
faster.
guardian build.
Zoom,
This
zoom,
makes
Sonic the
sense. Let's
Hedgehog.
get
He's
moving
gone from
They
speed.
like
never had this
Let's get some
trait,
swiftness.
and I kind of like that
Makes a
they
lot of
didn't.
sense. Fits the
And if
character
they were,
thematically. We see this a lot on the Master Tier
Oh.
minor trait of Elixir
Yeah, but
specializations,
it's
where it is
like,
really just
if you go
reinforcing
for this,
kind of the
though.
character identity.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's
it's
good.
It's
a
a
minor
passive.
trait.
You don't. It's
Then
not. If
moving
you
in,
go
we
for
probably,
it, you get
some of you
it.
probably noticed I was
Yeah.
getting stacks of a buff as we were firing off these virtues. That was lethal tempo. So this is the Grandmaster minor damage bonus trait. And this is something kind of new and cool that we're doing on a handful
like
of buffs
this.
With this set of elite
Each time you
specializations
activate
where
a
it's going to
virtue or
actually
your virtue's passive
refresh
are
the duration of
triggered,
itself
gain
every
a
time you
damage
apply it.
bonus, gaining stacks
So
of
that's
this
a little bit
boon.
different from the mechanics we see with,
Refreshes other
like
stacks.
wounds, where each stack of might is going to fall off independently as those
Max
durations
stacks,
expire.
50%
Lethal
damage
tempo,
max on
I get a
this.
stack of this, and then there's 1 second left on that stack, but I get a second stack. Now I have 2 stacks, both
This is
at
gonna be
full
a lot of
duration.
damage. Because it's the
And it's
multiple
really
strike
trying to
system.
push
You have
kind
to
of
get a
this-
lot of strikes to get some
This
good damage
natural
out of this.
build up, this kind of building
I see what
momentum
they're doing.
aspect of this character.
Yeah, it
where
seems like it's just going to be
initially you
a
don't
flat
quite have your
15%
maximum
damage. It
potential,
doesn't look
but
like
assuming you stay in
this is
target,
gonna
you
be
stick to
lower
your
than
target, you do what
15%
this
at any
character's
point in the
trying to
fight.
do, You're going to build up lethal tempo and maintain lethal tempo and keep that damage bonus going. And it's pretty rewarding here. 3% per
really
stack, 5 stacks,
strong,
15%.
actually.
Really good. We'll see a
That's a-
little bit of a
that's a
bonus
minor.
there in the Grandmaster style.
Now, I
once
don't
we
want
get
any
there.
of you ever saying again
So pretty strong damage pool.
that Guardian
Moving
is
into
their
the
beloved
adapt traits,
class,
we're gonna
because it's
see,
obvious that they didn't give a lot of stuff to them in
Pretty
this one.
similar theme across these traits where they're all doing this
Oh,
more
I love this.
natural trade-off within the trait itself, where maybe giving above rate
Gain concentration, man. It
for
brings
the
you
value
up
of this
and
slot than we
down.
usually do, but at the same
Yeah,
time you're
very
giving
Or
something
these
else.
self-centered.
So looking here at boon
It's more
pack,
selfish,
increased
yeah.
concentration,
This is-
240
this is the
concentration in
trade-off
the
that
adapt
I
slot.
want.
Pretty impressive, but at the
This
same
makes
time,
sense.
allies will
This
get
is the
reduced
role.
points from you. So this is again pushing
Yeah,
that really
I like it.
selfish, assassin-y
It's like
playstyle
completely
for
the
this
opposite to
character.
Guardian.
If I want to extend my free duration from
This is like
monk
completely
focus,
the
if I
opposite to
want
Guardian.
more resolution
Massively.
duration to keep up my crit chance
So good.
from Righteous Instinct. Maybe you go
Love
into
it.
Boon Pact. Probably not, because the next trait we're going to talk about
Yeah, why would
is
you want boon duration? Well,
more
because you're
just
putting boons
straight
on
up
yourself,
power focus,
right?
but
yeah,
it's definitely an
but
option.
it mostly just
If you're looking
chunking
to
those
just have a
boons
little
on
bit more boon
yourself, and you
duration.
wouldn't have to necessarily build into more concentration.
Going to power for power, here you go. 240 power.
Well, it's not
minus
even. It's not
240
even
toughness.
just boons. It's
So
stats.
pretty big trade-off there for a
specifically.
pretty big gain.
Yeah, I'm actually so
just
much
pushing
happier
Guardian
with the spec
down
with these
pretty
traits.
close into that light armor range. So bottom health,
Yes.
bottom armor-ish.
Jesus.
Feeling a little bit more like an elementalist. So
Imagine
you
if
can
you're
enjoy
playing
going
like
into downstate
Zerka
and
though. You've
pressing
got
all
no
your abilities there as
survivability.
Ellie
You've
gains
got to
are
make.
always
You've got to
used
be quick on the old mouse.
But
I mean,
again, as long as
or
you're
keyboard.
playing well,
so
dodging your
you have
abilities,
so much movement.
just dodge.
Yeah, like that's the thing there.
240 power in the adept.
You got-
slot,
I'm
pretty
wondering
powerful
about the-
special trait. And finally, we have
The rune on
Tia
this.
Curate here in the bottom trade line. gives a little bit of healing power
This is
at the
how they
trade-off
are
of not
fixing
healing
this
allies.
spec for
This
Guardian,
character
so
doesn't
it's
really
not
want to heal allies
overpowered.
anyway.
Yeah, look at this. The
Just a bit more
outgoing healing
upside.
power is reduced to be
240
get it
healing
good
power,
for
maybe
yourself.
Not all that much.
No
This
one's
could
gonna
definitely
use
be
that.
higher. We're definitely going to be,
No, it'll be
watching
good for tanking.
the data from the
It'll be
beta,
really good
watching
for
all
a
the
bruiser
feedback
if you
from the
wanna hold a
beta,
point.
seeing what's overtuned,
And
what's
you have, like, with
undertuned.
the- you get
This
2
is definitely
charges of your
something that
healing
could
skill.
come up.
I don't know if I'd
Needs a
play
little
this
bit
if
more
I was
of
going to
that
hold a point
selfish
now.
sustain, if that's the option you want to go to.
This is more of a roamer. This is a
This
thief
is
roamer.
pretty
This is a
cool.
thief
This is a
roll.
big roamer, but I mean, if you want to,
So then
do a
let's
different.
move
I mean, yeah,
on.
you could. Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
break
I mean, you could be a
I could
bruiser,
just
like
switch
on a
out the
point.
Grandmaster traits and throw everybody off, but that doesn't really make sense.
You don't have to use the.
Tell them your plan now, so.
Part of me is like, I wish just you could combine this with Dragon Hunter with like traps. That would be so cool. It'd be ridiculous.
So the first one, the first trait we're going to see in the Master Tier slot, Restorative Virtues. This is actually a really interesting
Oh.
trait, and it's really trying to push the mobility aspect of this character.
Just the initial.
Basically, what it says, while a virtue is active, activating another virtue reduces the initial virtue's cooldown reduction, cooldown time by its remaining duration. That's a lot of words. But what
That's
does it actually
interesting.
mean? So basically what it means is if you're just kind of rapid firing your virtues, you're going to get refunded for the amount of time
But you
that
lose
did
the
not
effects
spend
from them
in that
because of what I
virtue
said before. So
stance,
there is that
whatever you
trade-off
call it.
again. There's a lot
If I pop
of
off Justice
trade-offs
here,
which we
6
keep
seconds of
doing.
Justice, but I immediately pop Resolve, you see a
That
big
cooled it
cooldown
down
refund
by
on Justice.
so
there.
much.
And similarly, if we pop into Courage early, we're going to be getting some refund on Resolve.
Wait, what was it?
And so that is really going to
How long
When
was
you
it?
activate another virtue,
really
Yeah, but how
really
long
that
was?
kind of
cooldown?
mobility
How
play
long
style,
was-
that's
It
something
cools
you're
it
looking for
down
because
by
you
the
will be
amount that
getting
your
lower and lower cooldown. We'll also see a little bit more of that in the
Passive.
Grandmaster
passive
slot
afterwards
for cooldown reduction.
had
Takes the reach.
remaining.
Oh, right,
'Cause
okay,
remember,
okay.
Yeah, remember if you do F1 and then
Moving
F2
on.
right away,
Oh,
it cancels
yeah,
your
yeah,
first
So this
F1.
augments Willbender
Oh,
Flame,
okay, that's
33% damage increase.
that's some
That's a really
tech.
large number, but as I
Jesus.
touched on
Yeah, you
earlier,
can't escape
Willbender
from this
Flames
class.
are
You might
not
be able
really something that
to
we're
chase it
intending
down,
to
but
be
you won't be able to
kind of this
escape from
main
this class.
damage source anyway. So you're looking at 33% on top of a pretty small power coefficient already. It's not going to be doing a whole lot of value there. The main upside
Especially if
here
you're on a
is
sword as well.
the
Main hand.
healing per target struck. So you're going to look at this trait, and maybe in combination with Resolve,
you can't
if you're
escape
hitting
from
a lot
this
of
class.
targets, we're going to see a lot of potential healing. I mean, the Courage AoE is probably the most easy to hit the most targets with, the big circle, but
and if you pair that with the
Resolve
increased
is also going to be
healing,
giving you those Resolve procs at the same time.
From the first
Obviously,
trait.
all three of
Should be
the
okay.
all three of the virtues create Willbender Flame to follow
240,
healing, so
250
a bit more
healing power, isn't
sustain.
it?
This is going to be great in those larger fights where you're hitting multiple targets with these Willbender Flames. A lot of potential healing coming up from
Yeah,
that
that'd be
trait.
fun in World v World and stuff.
And finally, we're going to look at Vanguard Tactics. So this is a pretty powerful trait again.
Yeah,
all these
that's
traits seem
more the
pretty strong,
PvP one.
Except for, you know,
Like the
Consuming
BG's
Fury.
one,
We'll
and
throw
then
that
the
one in a
other one
different
above
sense.
is World
A
v
little
World,
bit on
and the
the
other one's
weaker side.
PvE.
But a lot of good traits here in the Willbender kit. And Vanguard Tactics is kind of
How does
this
that gain
two-pronged,
resistance?
multifaceted thing where
Yeah, that's really good.
up front it's going to just
Yeah,
augment
so
courage, and
you're
courage is
never
going to
able
give
to be
you
stopped.
And
protection
then you
resolution
can,
on
but
top
you
of what it already
can't.
does.
It's a shame
We
that
see
imagine
in
if you
the
had the
similar
like
trait over in
cooldown
Virtues,
reduction.
because protection on courage, so these are going to
Well, it's
add
just
together,
like
we're
cool
gonna
down.
get
this
added
guy
potential,
has all these movement
protection duration
skills,
if you
and then
take
every
both
time he
those
uses his
together.
movement skill, he can't be
But
slowed or
the
immobilized.
secondary
or anything,
component of
so
this skill, or this
it's
trait
like,
rather, is that it gives you
geez.
resistance on any shadow step. So we're looking at skills like Judge's Intervention, Symbol
But
Blades.
it's still risky.
Guardian has a lot of shadow steps.
oh
we have
yeah,
even more shadow steps on the Willbender kit as well.
Symbols.
So potentially a lot of resistance uptime. And this one is actually a trait that came to the party pretty
Again,
late. This is more after the
we don't know what his
change we
stats
made to the
are,
resistance boon in the
but
recent
the
Berserk.
balance update,
damage it's doing
where
is
previously
not
resistance
that
was
insane.
full condition
Yeah,
immunity.
and I think that's a
Really
good.
sure it's
way
that's
too
a
powerful an
smart
effect to put
trade-off.
on such a repeatable source like on
And it seems
Shadow
like in
Step.
order to like
But
get
with
that
the move
higher, you
to
have to be really
non-damage
proficient
resistance
with like the
only, it's
flow and
something
how
that
you're
really
doing it.
fits
Yeah.
this more assassin-y melee character playstyle because
I
you're going to
like
be
this
mitigating,
because it's like
ignoring
you have to know how to
cripple,
play the
immob,
game, not just like
weakness,
memorize
blind,
a
like all these things
combo
that shut down
for like
melee
Weaver.
characters so
Like you
well.
have to have a really
You're going
good
to have
sense of your
access to
surroundings.
resistance on your engage, assuming you blink in with either Courage or JI or any number of these shadow steps. And okay, you can just chain them together, get more and more resistance. A lot of
Okay,
opportunity to really
Grandmasters.
unload all of your damage while
This is when
ignoring
I'm on
those
the edge of my
non-damaging
seat.
conditions. And
You may need
almost
to
done.
take
so
some
close.
kind
Only
of
3 more trades to go, and we're done with the whole
caffeine
spec.
pill
So
to play this
Yeah,
class
yeah, yeah.
effectively.
short minute here.
I just realized though he hasn't been auto-attacking though, so that damage we're seeing is not even with his
Oh,
sword.
sword
1, 2,
auto attack
3.
is pretty strong as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
The chain.
All right. So,
But you wouldn't be
common
doing
theme
a lot of
amongst
that for
Grandmaster
utilities
traits for the
fast as
Willbender
well.
is that they're all going to augment one of the virtues in their particular way. They're all pretty different, but they are all pretty powerful. Let's just throw out that word again. Why not? Call everything powerful, and then when it's not powerful, you guys can all give me flack for it on forums. Or
You don't give me
feel like
flack.
doing that. Starting with Phoenix Protocol, this is going to be your resolve.
I want to know what the balance
Augmenting
patch is.
resolve. So instead of the upfront heal on that passive trigger, you're instead going to get a little bit of regeneration. So heal over time, a little bit less valuable to this glassier character. You'd rather have the upfront heal, but instead we're giving you regen and also then
when
giving
it
you
triggers,
alacrity
and it's
on
every
top
time
of
you
that.
hit in a certain amount of time, it triggers.
So this is
and there's no
what
internal cooldown.
leans more into that cooldown reduction
So, holy
type
shit.
of gameplay.
Second virtue, is it?
Where we're going to see resolve now giving me alacrity.
That's a lot of alacrity.
You can
And
build
remember,
up a
you
lot
can
of
give yourself
alacrity
a lot of
again,
boon duration on
cleaning
this, so
out
you could.
a ton of targets here with a lot of
Wait, you use
skills.
everything
You get
first,
access
then
to a
you
lot of
use
alacrity,
that.
So that's going to reduce your
Yeah, of
virtue
course,
cooldown, it's going to reduce your damage
Or you
cooldown.
use it
Well, it
and
doesn't really
you
affect
pull a
people,
chain
so
off
It's going to
quickly.
enable you to kind of
And
press
you do
more
the whole
buttons,
top
which I love
row,
pressing buttons,
it
and I
refreshes
imagine
the
a lot of players
other
love pressing buttons too.
passives.
So
So you
alacrity,
can just like
really
I heard you like
valuable
movement
component
skills.
given
Now you get to use them
in
twice as often.
exchange for trading that upfront heal for that slower over time regeneration. And the bonus note there is that resolve duration actually goes up a little bit as well. So increasing
No longer a Willbender,
duration
it's a
and
sign.
giving you more and more
Yes.
resolve. Next up we have Tyrant's Momentum. This is going to be the Justice Augment.
This is
Second
so
duration
different.
Increase.
How do you feel about this
This
Guardian
also
mains?
modifies lethal tempo, which we talked about a
I
little
love
bit
it. I
earlier.
love when
So
they bring us an
instead
elite
of
spec
3%
that
per stack, we're now
is
looking at
really,
5% per
really, really
stack,
different and
but
play style
also
and
a
feel from
shorter
the other
duration.
stuff.
So this actually reduces lethal
I
tempo
actually, this is
from
my
6
favorite
seconds to
trait line
4.
in
It's
terms
really
of
going
game design.
to require you to stick to
Put
those
give and
targets, keep
takes.
hitting them, keep proccing your justice, keep proccing your resolve, keep proccing all your virtues, activating your virtues
Could
to
be good,
make
too.
sure that lethal tempo keeps refreshing itself, keeps stacking up, really maximize your damage.
Let's increase
And it
damage.
also
You
gives
can get
a little bit
25%
more
increased
opportunity
damage
for players to
passively.
disengage or
Does
land
this
a,
mean- okay,
a wrong
so
CC
If
to
permeating justice or
force the
permeating
Guardian,
wrath
force the Willbender out of that lethal tempo, lose all their stacks, and kind of give you that
the
reprieve.
justice
and a little
duration,
bit of
affects the
reprieve.
justice passive after you use it.
And finally, we have
Is that
Deathless
stronger
Courage.
than
Say
the current justice
the
passive, or just a
craziest
core
for
warrior,
last. And
core
it's not
guardian?
crazy, but I mean, it's a little bit
Probably.
crazy. Carl told me about
But
this trait when he was
you
building
have
it.
to
I'm like, Carl,
activate
that's
it.
crazy.
So there is a cooldown.
You know, we talked
in
about
mind.
it. And it's definitely an interesting trait. It's
Oh,
something
that's
we want
okay.
to see how it plays. So I'll just hover this tooltip for a second while I snag some water, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, they just said they might not have it anymore. Killing a foe extends the duration of courage up to the maximum duration. You cannot be downed while courage is active.
All right. So
I
Deathless Courage this
actually
augments
love
your
that.
courage virtue. It says,
I
as long as courage is
actually
active,
love
you
that.
cannot die. Your health
Isn't this
cannot go
broken?
below
This
1
is
HP.
broken, right?
This is
You don't need
amazing.
anymore.
Pretty
You just get
powerful effect.
stability and all the other boons.
It does reduce the
In
How long-
duration of
World.
courage here, so we're seeing
How long is it for?
4-second courage duration.
It's like the
instead of
ultimate
6.
defense
There's
trait.
a little bit of a extending.
That is
You
going to
will not
enable.
die.
That is going to
opportunity here as
enable
well for
the build
every
that you're
player
talking
kill
about
you
in
get,
terms
you
of
get
being on
A
point.
couple of extra seconds there.
Yeah,
up
that's
to
what, like,
4
this seems
seconds
like it could be.
duration.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the
8
trait
seconds
that would
of
allow it,
damage
and that is
mechanic.
why it would be broken.
If you are
With
kind of
increased
chaining
healing,
kills
so
together.
you'll just like
Otherwise, it's going to be a 4
Courage
second.
I'm just
increased
thinking in,
die.
like world
But
versus
this doesn't
world.
have the same.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
that would be
bailout
even
feel that
worse.
we
I mean,
see on,
PvE,
like,
that would be a
PvE, it's got the same
perfect
mechanic,
just
can't die when I have
trait to
PvE,
just run
it's
around
heal
and
me
just
for a while
farm.
If I would die. Instead, this is just
it says
gonna keep me at
maximum
1
allowed
HP.
increase is 4
and
seconds. So there
I
seems
never
to
get out of
be.
range before when courage ends, or I'm just going to fall
You can
over
only get
because
to 4
someone's
seconds,
gonna
but I'm
touch me
guessing
and
that
I'm
4
gonna take 1
seconds can
damage
keep
and go into
like.
the
and it's really not situational at all. Like you're
So,
going to use
I mean, it's something
courage
you're
when
gonna
you're
want
trying to
to-
res
this is
or
something that's going
stomp,
to enable you
so that
to
you can't
really
get cleaved
Not
down.
anymore.
dive in
Just depends
and
how quick you
again,
can get into
push all
courage,
your
right, I
buttons
guess.
And then have an opportunity
You're
to
going to be
get
using this
out.
for self-defense.
We saw a similar kind of.
It might. I agree
similar
with Val. It
gameplay
might not
with
be the
Flash Combo
best,
into
but in
Repose.
some
We see a
situations
little
it'll
bit
be
more of that
really
on Crashing
annoying.
Courage.
If
That no
you're
death
about to
mechanic
go
gives you that
down
window of time
and you're
to
invincible
hit
for
your
4
big
seconds,
damage
it's
ability
amazing
off
in
and then
PvP.
get out,
It's like
or
Yeah, I
get
mean,
ridiculously
sustained
amazing in
back up by your
PvP.
teammates.
But it's all, based
to
around whether or not you
avoid
can
just
get
falling
a
over the
kill
enemies.
and time it in such a way that
All right, so we made it through true. That's a lot of skills.
But
a lot
that
of traits, a lot
encourages
of
you to
tooltips.
dive more.
Yeah.
That encourages
Yeah,
diving.
like think of popping courage when you're stomping. You guarantee the kill, and you can't be cleared
the
down.
elite specialization for this beta, so we're going to throw it back to Ruby.
But you
to
could
wrap
still be
up this
CC'd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it gives
Do you have
stability
enough water? Are
courage.
you
Really,
good?
you're right.
I feel like Cal is the real hero here.
And unless you
Getting
get
through
the
all of
stacks
that,
off,
so
I guess.
thank you.
I got through 2. Let's see. I don't think I can finish another one. In
I have a few things to talk about, so let's see if you can get through.
balance
No, don't
potions?
do that.
Yeah, just start
That seems dangerous.
Okay, let's
All
listen
right,
to what that's
so those are the first 3 elite specializations for End of Dragons. You're going to get to try them for yourself next week during the beta. All of the information on the beta event is on our website, but here's the quick rundown. The beta starts next Tuesday, the 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific time and runs until Saturday night, the 21st, until 10 p.m. Pacific time. This is open to all players with an account in good standing, including play for free players. When the beta event starts, you'll find 3 temporary beta character slots on your account where you can roll those characters. You can try one of each elite specialization if that's what you want. Those characters will be level 80 and fully geared up. While the End of Dragons maps are not part of this beta event, your beta characters can go through all game modes in the current live game. All maps, all waypoints are unlocked for you. Take them out for a spin, give them a try, play wherever you like in the live game, and let us know what you think. Saturday night, when the beta event ends, your characters and those character slots will go away, and game progress earned on those characters will not be saved. If you play on your regular characters during the beta event, that's fine, that will progress normally. So, I have a couple more things to talk about before we wrap up today. A few weeks ago, we partnered with DX Racer to give away a DX Racer Racing Pro gaming chair. We decided to celebrate the start of this beta event with another giveaway for a second chair. That went live a few hours ago. You can look on the Guild Wars 2 Twitter and see where and how to enter. And good, okay.
Need some water. Where are your balls?
And good luck to all of you who enter, and I hope the winner enjoys your chair. This is also the final week to pre-purchase your Aurene Elder Dragon collector statue. We have pre-purchase until the 20th.
You guys bought one?
This statue is a mirror of how you see Aurene in the game right now.
I'm pretty picky about like pre-ordering expensive things,
shine,
but for a character that I love, I'll do it. So Aurene was like, I was just like, that's it. All the money I save goes right to that.
Chamber where the color formula is vaporized, condenses, and binds to the statue to create that iridescent color layer.
Damn, they've actually
so
there's a lot of time spent on those
of that process.
Jesus.
This statue also comes with a code for an in-game statue, an in-game cape, not an in-game statue, an in-game Aurene cape that Cal is modeling right
there
now
we go.
His character. Looking extremely dapper.
Pretty.
Aww, very frozen.
Oh, it's the same as the t-shirt.
Pre-purchase until
It's the t-shirt
August
design.
20th, so you have one more week on that one. And
that's actually pretty cool.
End of Dragons is available for pre-purchase
That's
now
what people will pay
well,
120
and
bucks
comes
for.
with some bonuses that you can use on
Some
your
people will
account
pay
right now,
120
including
bucks for that.
Shinjay title, the Shinjay Mosaic cape, and the Flame Serpent weapon chest, where you can get your choice of weapon for that. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you both for coming and running us through this. Cal, thank you for everything. Speaking of powerful, that would be
I could keep going. Like I could talk about Guild Wars 2 for so many hours. It's kind of unreal.
Well,
but we'll make sure to save a little bit for the future.
More elite specs are coming.
Yep.
So, but for now, we will see you in the beta next Tuesday, and thank you for hanging out with us.
Balance notes. I wonder when those.
Now, where is the balance notes? That's a very good point.
That's what I want to see. Balance notes? You guys got balance notes?
That was a lot of information. That wasn't even.
I know. I feel like we need to just review it 50 more times. My brain is just going.
We can do that.
All right, go get the VOD, replay it.
Yeah, ready. We're gonna do it. He's gonna go post the notes after he gets back from the bathroom.
What did everybody think in chat? What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm sure we're gonna be talking here, but figured we'd throw it out there right before we get started. Oh,
yeah.
How about all of you? What is? Oh my gosh.
I don't know how we're gonna do this episode.
So many things are flying in my brain right now.
I'm trying to figure out if when I saw like the previews for Heart of Thorn specs or for Path of Fire specs, did I feel like they were as strong as how I feel these guys are?
Or do we want to do?
It's being updated on the wiki right now.
But to be honest, actually, Willbender may be the only one that feels really, really strong.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we start kind of do the post-show episode, which is going to be the
Let's
episode, which is going to be the one where people are going to be able to listen to it, because that no one's going to be able to listen to that and get any idea of what the hell is going on. And we can still go over the VOD at the same time and talk about the abilities. We'll just have it in the background, and I'll just pause it when we talk.
There were a lot of people watching that. 13,000, maybe more, at least from what I'm seeing.
That's good for a group chat, yeah.
Lots of people hyped. Lots of people hyped.
Okay. I'm going to do a little intro then.
Some of the patch notes are up.
Oh, are they?
Ooh.
Well, we'll bring them in and we'll talk about those as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just eager. I don't want to see them.
All right. What am I doing now?
Guildwars2.com.
Are they?
Anyway, people who are watching, thank you very much for watching. This is going to be on YouTube as well. It's a separate thing. We're going to do a separate podcast episode as well, so you want to watch that afterwards. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Do this.